time is now 5:35 is what I have on Wednesday, April 23rd, 2025. And this public meeting of the DC State Board of Education will come to order. The roll will now be called to determine the presence of a quorum. Director Butler, how you doing? Please call the roll.
Representative Barnes,
Present.
Representative Lynn, Representative Mayer, Representative Ting,
Present.
Representative Best,
Present.
Representative Chang,
Present.
Representative Colson,
Present.
Representative Goulet,
Here.
Representative Henderson,
Present.
Representative Johnson Law,
Good evening, present.
Representative Thompson, Representative Williams,
Present.
Representative Patterson.
Present.
Mr. President, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much, Director. A quorum has been determined, and the State Board will now proceed with the business portion of the meeting. Members, we have a draft agenda before us. Are there corrections or additions to the agenda? Okay. Seeing no discussion, there is a motion to adopt the agenda.
Motion.
Moved by Johnson Law. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second by Vice President Williams. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Say nay. The motion is approved. We now have the minutes from the April 2nd working session. Is there a motion to adopt these minutes?
Motion to adopt the minutes.
Motion moved by Johnson Law.
Second.
Second again by Vice President Williams. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, so you know, the motion is carried. All in favor say aye. Okay, the motion is carried. Okay. On behalf of the District of Columbia State Board of Education, I want to welcome guests and members of the public, including those who are watching live via the District Knowledge Network, to our public meeting. The State Board typically holds its public meetings on the third Wednesday of each month in the old council chamber at 441 4th Street. We are holding the April meeting 1 week later because we had Emancipation Day last week, and we want to make sure that we celebrate that important holiday. This evening, we have 14 public witnesses who have signed up to share testimony. We encourage the public to sign up every month at SBOE.dc.gov. Over the past month, we have had opportunities to meet with Chairman Mendelson, Chancellor Farabee, and Dr. Mitchell, who was confirmed, I believe, today, to share updates and discuss areas of collaboration. Thank you to all these leaders and their staff for their continued partnership and engagement. Our acting superintendent, Dr. Mitchell, who almost, has a scheduling conflict. We are happy to welcome Assistant Superintendent Tia Bromstead to deliver remarks on behalf of OSSE. Now you.
Thank you, President Patterson. My name is Tia Marie Brumstead, and I am the Assistant Superintendent of Health and Wellness at the Office of the State Superintendent of Education, and I welcome this opportunity to offer remarks to the State Board of Education and the listening public on behalf of acting, State Superintendent Dr. Antoinette Mitchell. I'll begin by addressing the important topic of school safety and describe a sample of the work being done at OSSE with our government and community partners to better understand and promote school safety. I know this is an area of shared interest, and I look forward to hearing from your distinguished panel on the subject this evening. As DC State Education Agency, we are committed to fostering student and staff well-being, including physical, mental, and social-emotional health, by promoting safe, welcoming, healthy, and joyful learning environments. We know that healthy bodies and minds build the foundation of academic success. Every child deserves a school that is safe, and every family deserves peace of mind. To ground my remarks, I would like to provide some context based on the 2023 District of Columbia Youth Risk Behavior Survey. Since 2007, this survey has been an integral tool for schools, government, and community stakeholders who educate, protect, and support DC youth. The DC YRBS, which is designed by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and is administered locally by OSSE every 2 years. This survey works with students anonymously across 113 DC public and public charter middle and high schools. These data capture critical information on student experiences, health and risk and protective factors, and are made available to our community and school partners to help highlight and ground us with where students need support. Throughout my remarks, I will refer to data from our latest DC YRBS administration to help emphasize the challenges our students face both in and out of school. First, chronic absenteeism remains a significant concern for student success in the district, as high rates of chronic absenteeism are linked to a range of negative outcomes, including increased risk behaviors and poor mental health. Chronic absenteeism is defined as students being absent, excused or unexcused, for at least 10% of the days in which they are enrolled, and state and school level chronic absenteeism rates are based on attendance reported by schools to OSSE. While chronic absenteeism rates continue to decrease across all grade bands, it remains a significant challenge for education leaders. YRBS data suggests that middle and high school respondents at schools with high chronic absenteeism rates also reported increased incidences of suicidality, bullying, and other risk behaviors. To improve transparency, OSSE published district-wide attendance data 3 times per year for the first time last school year. We also continue to publish unique insights in our annual attendance report to help the public better understand absenteeism and truancy here in the district. Continued attention on this matter is essential, so OSSE strengthened our attendance community of practice and joined a nationwide effort to cut chronic absenteeism in half over 5 years. We also hired our first state attendance coordinator, and this person will work across OSSE, district government partners, and schools to strengthen OSSE's attendance infrastructure and theory of action, which provides a roadmap in the areas of data, policy, capacity building, and oversight to tackle root causes of absenteeism. We know that to combat absenteeism, students must feel safe while in school. Witnessing or experiencing violence can have profound impacts on a student's mental health. For instance, almost half of the high school YRBS respondents who witnessed violence in their neighborhood also report experiencing depressed mood. Lower grades were reported among students who also reported they missed school due to feeling unsafe or were afraid of being beaten up in school. More than 4 in 10 middle school respondents who report missing school due to feeling unsafe also report receiving mostly D's or mostly F's in school. Bullying also remains high among middle schoolers, with 26% of middle school boys and 36% of middle school girls reporting being bullied on school property. DC law requires that schools have policies that tackle safety, including a bullying prevention policy, and 2 policies that 1, prevent and address student sexual abuse by school staff, and 2, prevent and address student-on-student acts of sexual harassment, sexual assault, and dating violence. OSSE recently revised our school safety model policies that schools can use to meet these requirements. We strongly encourage schools to regularly review their bullying prevention and school safety policies. Further, OSSE also supports schools with tackling bullying and violence prevention through restorative justice training and evidence-based curriculum. Last year, OSSE distributed the Too Good for Violence conflict resolution and violence intervention curriculum to all district public and public charter school middle schools for use at the 7th grade level. This curriculum promotes the development of skills, attributes, and behaviors to encourage healthy emotions management, actions, and respect between peers. Last year, the State Board of Education also voted to support the kindergarten through adult education social and emotional learning standards. These standards were developed by OSSE and are intended to be implemented by all public and charter schools across the district. They include essential social emotional knowledge and skills for students, including how to manage emotions, achieve goals, maintain supportive relationships, and make responsible and caring decisions. The negative impacts of violence and bullying affect a student's mental and emotional well-being and their ability to learn. This remains a critical concern for youth in DC. DC students continue to face mental and emotional health challenges with the highest rates of suicidality among middle school females, particularly Black, African American, and Hispanic or Latino females. Additionally, middle school LGBTQ+ respondents are 2.5 times more likely to ever try to kill themselves than their heterosexual peers, while high school LGBTQ+ respondents are nearly 3 times as likely to attempt suicide. High school respondents who reported receiving mostly D's and F's are 3.7 times more likely to attempt suicide than those earning mostly A's. And respondents facing frequent disciplinary actions are also significantly higher risk. These findings on the YRBS underscore the need for targeted mental health support, particularly for vulnerable groups, and highlight the importance of creating safe and supportive school environments that can help mitigate these risks. OSSI continues to collaborate with the DC Department of Behavioral Health and DC Health in the development and delivery of behavioral health services to children and youth in the district. We also offer guidance, actionable resources, and promising practices. This includes working with our governmental partners and directly with schools to support the district's comprehensive school behavioral health system. Additionally, OSSI and partner agencies implement Advancing the Recruitment and Retention of Our Workforce, or ARROW. This program, with funding from the U.S. Department of Education, has trained over 170 school-based providers and evidence-based mental health programs, and also allowed OSSI to launch a first-year cadre for clinical providers who are newly entering our schools. Strengthening our school behavioral health workforce allows our teachers to better focus their energies on addressing academic, teaching, and learning needs. To further combat mental health challenges faced by students, the State Board of Education and DC Council have taken up cell phone and social media use in schools. A few weeks ago, DC Council held a hearing on the Heads Up Distraction-Free Learning Amendment Act of 2025. Expert witnesses at the hearing reinforced the detrimental effects cell phone and social media use can have on student learning during the academic day. Our YRBS data show that both middle and high school students who reported using social media several times a day also reported that their mental health was not good and that on average they slept less than 8 hours a night. Additionally, electronic bullying has increased among DC youth, most notably among middle school girls, with nearly 1 in 4 reporting being electronically bullied. While cell phones often help parents communicate important logistical information with their children on the way to and from school, it is important for children to disconnect from their devices and develop a well-rounded lifestyle. Separating children from their personal devices for roughly a quarter of the day will help DC students develop healthier digital habits. We are encouraged by the bill's introduction, and we look forward to working alongside the State Board, Council, and our LEA partners to refine the legislative text, implement the device prohibition, and continue to advance student safety, learning, and social emotional development. Finally, we know that school culture is paramount. Students must feel a sense of safety and belonging and must be immersed in a culture of achievement. So we recently launched our inaugural district-wide school climate survey to shine a spotlight on school culture. The data will be useful for schools to clearly understand and tackle positive and negative experiences of our students, families, and educators. It is incumbent upon all of us to continue to hold students, families, schools, and ourselves accountable for making every day count. In times of uncertainty, our public education system must provide safe harbor from the distractions that keep our students from reaching their full potential. I am optimistic about the future of our children in schools and believe that when we work together on these challenges, we will see academic achievement accelerate, young people flourish, and lifelong learners blossom. And before I conclude this very long remarks, I want to briefly highlight that OSSI recently published DC's annual enrollment audit report. The final audited enrollment was 99,652. While other urban districts are seeing a decline in public school enrollment, DC increased by more than 1,000 students this year. Though there's always more work to be done, we are pleased that DC families are continuing to vote with their feet and demonstrate confidence in our education system. In fact, enrollment is up 40% since 2007. And finally, I would be remiss if I did not note that today DC Council had held Dr. Mitchell's confirmation hearing, and it was so wonderful to hear from so many education leaders in our community and support for her confirmation, including Ward 8 Representative Johnson Law, so thank you. Our agency is optimistic that Council will approve her nomination before your next public meeting. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
We appreciate you joining us tonight here. Thank you to OSSI for your continued partnership and collaboration. We're wishing the best for you as well. We will now move on to our expert panel on the topic of student and school staff safety. We are pleased to welcome you all. If you are here in person, please come to the table when I call your name. Tara Brown, Awesome Parent Leader from PAVE. Sheila Clark, Deputy Administrator, Youth Services Division, Family Services Administration. Justin Patchen, Professor of Criminal Justice, University of Wisconsin. Valerie Papeloso Torres, if I said, I apologize if I mispronounced the middle name. Student Advocate Office of So members, you have in your materials written testimony on this topic from the Ombudsman for Public Education, Kimberly Humphreys. Panelists, each of you will have up to 5 minutes to share your testimony, and then we will move to one round of questions from the State Board. We will begin with Ms. Brown. Please begin when you are ready, Ms. Brown, and it's always great to see you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Tara Brown. I'm a citywide and Ward 8 PLD board member with PAVE. I'm here tonight to discuss my daughter's experience with bullying, how important it is for parents to understand what resources are available to them, and what system leaders should do in response. When my daughter was in first grade, she was bullied. Ultimately, the bullying reached a point that my daughter was no longer safe at her school.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Can you hold for just a second? We want to make sure that our viewers can see you, and I don't believe
Oh,
you're
am I not
on
speaking?
TV right now, so can you
No,
just-
you're speaking correctly.
Yeah,
It's
you're speaking correctly.
device,
It's a
not you.
technical
Gotcha.
thing, not you. So we're going to make
I
sure
have
that we
this time
resolve
to the
that
second,
issue.
so-
Yeah, so, and we're going to start all over,
Okay.
if you would like, okay?
Just say when.
All right. As soon as they give me the thumbs up and we have you on screen so people can see you.
Give us 1 second to get the timer, and then we will be ready to go. There you go, Ms. Brown. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tara Brown. I'm a citywide and Ward 8 PLD board member with PAVE. I'm here tonight to discuss my daughter's experience with bullying, how important it is for parents to understand what resources are available to them, and what system leaders should do in response. When my daughter was in first grade, she was bullied. Ultimately, the bullying reached a point that my daughter was no longer safe at her school. This incident led to my daughter receiving a victim's transfer to a new school. The transfer removed her from her friends and teachers, causing her even more trauma. Although my daughter is now a senior and about to go off to college, I have seen how the bullying and harassment in her younger years have had a direct impact on the mental health challenges she faces today. I am here to share my story so that other parents know how they can support their students and ultimately how we can ensure that our schools and systems are transparent about their obligation to students and families as it relates to their bullying prevention policies. The district-wide model bullying prevention policy is 67 pages of requirements and recommendations created to support the Youth Bullying Prevention Act of 2012. It is this policy and legislation that gave me the power to demand the support we received when my daughter was being bullied. The Office of Human Rights and the Youth Bullying Prevention Program were essential resources for me to understand what our rights were and how to navigate the advocacy process. Under the bullying prevention policy, bullying, including physical, verbal, social, and cyberbullying, is strictly prohibited in schools, at school events, and online when it impacts the school environment. Schools are required to investigate all reported incidents, take appropriate disciplinary action, and provide support for both victims and offenders. This includes 3 levels of intervention to address bullying: prevention, identifying vulnerable groups and their bullies, and intervention. Schools should have robust resources to do each aspect of this work, and it is incumbent on the system to make sure they have what they need to do this well and not ask schools to shoulder burdens without adequate support. In my experience, it was most helpful to know that it is required that all youth-serving agencies, including schools, have a policy to address bullying. This requirement allows each agency to shape its policy in a way that best serves its population. This is important as it allows each school community to craft a bullying policy that is responsive to their school's unique set of needs. Parents, students, and educators should be at the table to craft those policies as it directly impacts our lived experience. Being aware that these policies are in place, no matter where your child goes to school, means that there is a procedure in place to address and stop bullying. This gives families a way to advocate. Pop-up message. I lost my place. Bear with me. Sorry. This gives families a way to advocate for their children. All LEAs in DC are required to have a bullying policy. DCPS, for example, requires that every school have the contact name and number of the person responsible for managing the bullying prevention program in a visible location. All reports of bullying should be investigated and a report of the findings should be created. In my experience, the school attempted to narrow the definition of bullying, thereby absolving itself of the requirements of the bullying prevention policy. However, the definition of bullying as found on page 7 of the district-wide model bullying prevention policy is broad, and your child's situation may very likely trigger the need for the protocols put in place to address bullying incidents. One of the most important resources I utilized was the victim's transfer through the then DCPS Office of Youth Engagement, now the Office of Integrity. A victim's transfer allows your child to be transferred to another DCPS school in the interest of their safety. This can happen at any time, regardless of the lottery or their neighborhood school. A victim's transfer is considered a last resort, and you have to be ready to justify the necessity. While it may be rare, parents must be equipped with this information so they can have access to all of the tools available to make the best choices for their students. What is most important to know about how to protect your child from bullying is to know the policy and make sure the agency entity follows it. I have linked resources that I found helpful. There is much more to bullying prevention than addressing bullying alone. All the work that myself and other paid parent leaders have done over the years have to be factored in as well. In our advocacy around safe passage, we know that if safe passage ambassadors are trained in conflict resolution and de-escalation and work closely with schools to prevent issues and intervene quickly and appropriately when they do arise, bullying experiences will be diminished. Every LEA should fold safe passage into their bullying prevention policy. After all, bullying incidents are not confined to the school building. No bullying prevention program would be complete or effective without it. The saying, hurt people is familiar for a reason. In fact, the 6-year-old bully that harmed my daughter was himself a victim of abuse. School-based mental health is an important part of bullying prevention by incorporating social and emotional learning into the school community. Holistic supports in schools can help reach children before they become bullies and support children who have been bullied. We know that quality out-of-school time experiences make students feel more connected and engaged in healthy ways. We also know that when students have access to the types of specialized school programs that spark their passions and meet their unique learning needs, they are more likely to attend school and less likely to engage in negative behaviors. Ultimately, we know that when we listen to families, when we make sure basic needs are met, and students are provided with welcoming and nurturing environments, and we give kids, okay, that was the closing anyway, all right.
Good evening, President Patterson, Vice President Williams, State Board of Education members, and staff. Thank you for inviting me to speak on this panel regarding school and student safety across the district. My name is Valeria Popolicio Torres, and I serve as a student advocate for the Office of the Student Advocate. Our office supports students, families, and community members to navigate the public education system here in the District of Columbia. We provide one-on-one support through our Request for Assistance hotline, which guides our resource creation process and event planning. To maintain privacy for students and families, we do not track key identifiers such as gender, sexuality, national origin, language spoken at home, or documentation status as part of our RFA data collection process. Today, I will share findings that the Office of the Student Advocate has gathered through our RFA hotline and continuing student safety work, including our student safety report from school year 2023-24, and some developing insights from our ward-based student safety conversations. In interest of time, I have condensed today's testimony and have submitted a full copy to the board. The topic of student safety has been a growing concern throughout the district for the past 5 years. As stated in our student safety report for school year 23-24, since schools reopened in 2021 from the pandemic, the rate of students reporting feeling safe has decreased. The number of students who reported feeling in danger or afraid increased by nearly 10 percentage points in the past 3 years, with the number of students selecting concerned also consistently rising. One of the growing conditions that students reported contributing to them feeling unsafe is school-based harassment or violence. Approximately 32.9% of all students respondents identified this as a condition that makes them feel unsafe, accounting for a 9.3% increase reporting from school year 22-23 to 23-24. Many times on the RFA hotline, we hear from families how school-based concerns often spill over to the community, either on the travel to and from school or through social media platforms. In our safety surveys, we ask students to self-identify their race, ethnicity, gender, and sexual orientation. Safety concerns are growing throughout the district, and they are disproportionately impacting our LGBTQIA+, Black, and Latina and Indigenous students. Last school year, approximately 35% of students stated they have experienced bullying or harassment, and 10% were unsure. Approximately 1 in 2 students who reported bullying or involvement in fights also reported missing school due to these safety concerns. In our ongoing ward-based student safety conversations, students, families, and school staff have also shared that based on the current political climate and the signing of harmful executive orders that targeted our LGBTQIA+ students, multilingual learners, students who are undocumented, or have families with mixed documented statuses, safety-related attendance concerns are increasing. The Office of the Attorney General provided schools with general information on safety protocols, resource development, and highlighted the district-wide bullying prevention policy for students with fears about immigration enforcement. Despite this guidance, it is clear that these realities are impacting students on multiple levels, from an increase of bullying and harassment from fellow peers inside the school building and online, to the looming safety concerns of harassment and state-based violence across our communities. With ongoing conversations across the district about how schools and communities can improve student attendance, it is important that we address issues of school safety and climate. From my experience serving as a student advocate, one of the common solutions I hear from families of students who are targeted by bullying and harassment is the desire for their student to transfer to another school. Though bullying concerns are unique, and at times this may be appropriate, I urge the adults who care for our students to honor how their agency can be restored. A student who has been impacted by bullying and harassment may feel further isolated or, in a sense, reprimanded for reporting what they have been experiencing if they are the ones who must transfer schools. Even if a school is in the process of a bullying investigation, safety concerns can be addressed through the support of a safety plan. In order to address current gaps and barriers in the resources for students who have been impacted by bullying and to improve communication with families, the Office of the Student Advocate recommends the following. Schools should increase the frequency of data reporting to the Office of Human Rights on a more regular basis. LEAs should adopt a standardized format for outcome letters that include key information such as summary of investigation, findings, actions taken, and next steps. We must modernize anti-bullying supports across the district, reconvening the Youth Bullying Task Force to revise the Youth Bullying Prevention Act and provide recommendations on how LEAs and school staff can be equipped to prevent and address issues such as cyberbullying. Additionally, the task force should consider how we can continue to build safe communities and encourage students to report bullying or harassment during shifts in federal policies, directions that may lead to fear and distrust in our systems. Lastly, we also express our support for the recent passing of SR 25-2. Through our student safety focus groups and ward-based conversations, we've heard from students who shared escalation happens over the phone. So I elevate the same recommendations for LEAs put forth in our safety report. And I'll wrap that up since I'm over time, but like I said, my full testimony has been submitted.
Thank you very much. I believe we have virtually Ms. Clark.
Hello. Oh, okay, good. How's everyone doing today? And I am going to start my testimony. Good evening. My name is Sheila Clark, and I'm the Deputy Administrator of the Youth Services Division at the Department of Human Services. I'm also a parent of 2 students that attend public schools in the District of Columbia and a Ward 5 resident. Thank you for the invitation to share about our work at DHS with young people in the district, particularly those students who have experienced housing instability, who are differently abled, those who identify as LGBTQ, and those who have experienced bullying. Provide a broad overview of the work that we do at DHS. We provide direct services to approximately 1,000 youth annually through our juvenile justice prevention and early intervention programs. Also, we fund a network of community-based organizations that provide housing and support to youth experiencing homelessness. Today, I will focus my testimony on our work with adolescents and school-age youth. YSD offers free services to youth and their families living in the District of Columbia through 9 distinct programs. Our programs have many acronyms, ACE, PASS, STEP, TPAP, and FFP, but they are similar in their offerings, with the cornerstone being individualized case management, academic support, and therapeutic interventions. The core difference in our programs is how young people come to us. Some families self-refer, some are referred by schools, some are referred by the MPD, and others by the Office of the Attorney General. Most YSD young people are at the edge of juvenile justice system involvement. Issues like chronic truancy, delinquency, or running away from home may have brought them to our attention. Most YSD youth are ages 14 or 15, reside in wards 4, 7, and 8. About 80% are African American, and most are from families receiving some form of public assistance. About 50% of our families self-report that their student has a disability, although we believe this may be underreported. Most frequently reported disabilities include ADHD, anxiety, or depression. YSD programs are effective and help young people achieve positive outcomes, including improved school attendance, improved behavioral functioning, and no further legal involvement while in our program. Once enrolled in a YSD program, a service plan is completed that identifies strengths, challenges, goals, and resources needed to achieve them. Young people work with us at YSD for up to 6 months, and this includes weekly or bi-weekly face-to-face visits in their communities. Young people also learn skill-building strategies that teach coping skills, decision-making, planning for the future, and are connected to other supports such as mentors, tutors, and therapy. In FY25, DHS, in partnership with 5 schools, launched a truancy reduction pilot program, which has received almost 400 referrals to date. Through this program, DHS proactively reaches out to families of students with 15 full-day absences, inquiring about the reasons for their absence, offering services, and reminding them about compulsory school attendance. Parents report absences due to transportation concerns, community safety, school safety concerns, negative peer relationships, sickness, and mental health. To directly address bullying in school climate, YSD launched a pilot program with Eastern High School in collaboration with School Talk DC. This program was built and intentionally grounded in principles of restorative principles of relationship, respect, responsibility, and repair. Students were identified by counseling staff, and many have been victims of bullying. This program also integrated healing practices such as yoga, sound meditation, affirmations, and empowerment. Services were offered during lunchtime, and access to a social worker for counseling or support was integrating a sense of community with participants, restored safety, and built self-esteem of participants. We have also worked with individuals that have been the perpetrator of harm, especially through our work with the DHS Alternatives to the Court Experience program. Restorative justice circles have been helpful to create a space to bring students together to express the impact of their harmful behavior and create a path for restoration. Restorative justice has not proved easy, and at times, individuals are not ready. Yet when it's facilitated by a skilled practitioner and with adequate preparation, change has been possible. When staying in the school environment is unhealthy for our clients, YSD case managers have coordinated school meetings and advocated for school transfers. These processes are time intensive and usually take multiple meetings until a transfer is successful. It would be great if this process could be expedited because in our experience, if a parent does not feel that the school is safe, they will not send their child to school no matter what the consequences. When violence in the community has created significant safety issues for young people, we've provided short-term charter transportation, to help students get to and from school. We provided families with Uber cards to help with transportation, or our case managers have helped facilitate rides to and from school. This has been especially helpful for students who have been victims or witnessed violence. For students with disabilities, we've helped educate families about their rights under the IDEA law. I also taught families about the proper way to document their request for special education assessments. And we partner with organizations like Advocates for Justice and the Children's Law Center. Mentoring is a huge piece of what we do. We believe mentoring is a critical support system for young people, both who are victims of bullying and perpetrators. Many times, young people who are bullying have learned aggressive behaviors or have experienced isolation, shame, or anxiety themselves. A mentor can facilitate
Thank you, Ms. Clark.
activities and help young people broaden their perspectives and ability to make better choices.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. We are at time.
I'm at time.
Yes, ma'am.
Got it. Well, the rest of my
Thank you. And our last panelist, Mr. Patchen, virtual as well.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm happy to be with you today to talk a little bit about my research and life's work over the last quarter of a century. My name is Justin Patchen, and I'm about to finish my 21st year as a professor of criminal justice at the University of Wisconsin in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. I also, for the purposes of what's relevant today, co-direct the Cyberbullying Research Center. So since 2002, my research partner, Samir Hinduja, who's at Florida Atlantic University, and I have conducted around 20 formal surveys of over 35,000 students from around the United States and abroad. We have surveyed parents, educators, law enforcement officers about their perspectives on this problem as well. So in my short amount of time I have with you, I want to focus on a few things that we've learned in those studies and the school visits across the country that I've done, focusing specifically on three areas: research, legislation and policy, and prevention. First, I want to talk about research. Estimates of the number of teens who experience cyberbullying are all over the map. I can point you to a paper published in a peer-reviewed academic journal that says 72% of students have been cyberbullied, while another published paper might put that number at 5%. The numbers are similarly varied when it comes to the number of students who admit to cyberbullying others. So how many teens have been involved? Well, from our 2023 national survey of 13 to 17-year-olds, about half of the respondents said they had experienced some form of cyberbullying. A couple of other broad generalizations can be made about cyberbullying based on our research. First, adolescent girls are just as likely, if not more likely, to experience cyberbullying, both as a target and as an aggressor. Cyberbullying is related to low self-esteem, suicidal ideation, anger, frustration, and a variety of other emotional and psychological problems. Cyberbullying is related to other issues in the real world, including school problems, antisocial behavior, substance use, and delinquency. School bullying and cyberbullying are closely related. Those who are bullied at school are bullied online, and those who bully at school bully online. And significantly more LGBTQ+ students are cyberbullied, about 50% higher than their counterparts, though this group is significantly less likely to cyberbully others. Of course, more research is necessary. We do not have good longitudinal research on cyberbullying. We do not have any real good evaluations of programs that actually target online safety or cyberbullying. Such endeavors, of course, are costly and take time, but would be well worth the money in the long run. We're also currently collecting data at this moment, so we'll have 2025 data very soon. Next, I want to talk about legislative and policy issues. All 50 states now have bullying laws, including the District of Columbia, that require schools to have anti-bullying policies. 48 of those state laws mention electronic forms of bullying. Sadly, my home state of Wisconsin does not. About half the states actually have specific guidance for schools to respond to off-campus incidents of bullying. And educators are particularly challenged by this issue, that is, knowing whether or not they can discipline students for cyberbullying when the behavior largely occurs away from the school. Because I'm running short on time, I'll just say they can. The case law is pretty clear on this, and my submitted testimony has more direct citations on that. But I think it's important that your district policies, your school policies include information about what teachers should do if they're being if they're confronted with a cyberbullying issue. Finally, I do want to talk about prevention. The most important preventative step that schools can take is to educate the community about the responsible use of their devices. Focus on digital citizenship. They need to know that all forms of bullying are wrong, whether it's happening online or off. They need to take time in school to regularly discuss these issues. There could be signs, there could be other reminders. A previous speaker talked about the importance of school climate and school culture. Samir and I wrote a book about that several years ago, so we're definitely behind you when it comes to that. In conclusion, I'd like to advocate for 3 specific areas of focus as you move forward with your work. First, advocate for more research, support it, fund it, allow researchers into your buildings. Second, advocate for policy that is prescriptive, thoughtful, and evidence-based, and provide adequate resources to support those. Third, focus on improving the culture at school so that it can have a significant impact on a host of problematic behaviors. If we improve the culture at school, we really can make a difference in terms of preventing these behaviors. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I want to thank each one of the panelists. Director Butler will now call for a round of the member questions. Each member will have 3 minutes. A reminder to the members that the 3 minutes include both the time to ask the question and the panelist's response. Director Butler.
Representative Barnes. Representative Barnes, we cannot hear you. Can you try the next mic over, please?
Hello? All right, cool. Thank you all for your testimonies today. First question is for Ms. Brown. Thank you for coming today. I heard you mention a lot about the prevention policy that happened in 2012. My question to you, if you make it very brief, is how can we hold educators accountable to uphold this policy?
Say that one more time.
How can educators be held accountable to help uphold this policy?
Well, the great thing about policy is when you go to school armed with what they're supposed to do and knowing what they're supposed to do, that's where the accountability comes in. It wasn't until I understood that it wasn't just a bullying incident happened to my daughter, but that triggered rules and things that the school then had to do in response, even though they had no intention of doing it until I pointed out that they were supposed to. So it's very important for parents to understand what the policies are, so then they can, that's what fuels your advocacy. It's not just, I want you to do this, but the policy says right here that you have to. And that's where the accountability comes in.
Thank you so much. Okay, and for Ms. Clark, I heard you mention that you have restorative justice facilitators, and they're facilitated by skilled practitioners. My question to you is, what makes a skilled practitioner in your organization?
We have predominantly partnered with School Talk to facilitate the restorative justice trainings, and they have worked deeply with our team, one, to just understand what restorative principles are, to have an approach with young people that's not punitive, but really like fostering mutual understanding. But predominantly, we're not the facilitators of restorative justice. We contract with School Talk, and then their team comes in, does meetings with the young people, understands the issue, and facilitates the circle, and then puts together a plan after the circle in terms of safety planning, as well as what the repair of the harm will be. So I think training and follow-up is really important in the process.
Awesome. Okay, and one more question for you. I heard you mention that the restorative justice, it's often difficult, but it's evidence-based that it does work. What is the evidence base there?
Well, my experience is that, many times when we have seen two young people fall out, all of us adults are like, let's do restorative justice, right? But I think a lot of times, sometimes young people aren't ready. Sometimes the young person that has experienced the harm is really not ready to sit in that space. Sometimes they are more equipped to sit in what we call like a smaller meeting where it can be processed, but not in the presence of that person. So I think sometimes parents aren't ready. Restorative justice requires everyone to come to the table, and there needs to be also the person that perpetuated the harm has to be ready to take responsibility, right? So I think that's my experience when I say.
Thank you so much, Ms. Clark.
Hard because
I'm so sorry. Thank you. Representative Ting.
Hello. Yes, I actually don't have any questions, but I would like to express my gratitude and thanks for you panelists for presenting today. I fully agree with a lot of these points. Like, I agree with Dr. Patchen in that we need to definitely fund the schools, even though I'm not exactly sure where the State Board of Education should play a role in that. It's probably advocacy because we don't control the budget. I agreed with Ms. Clark that we should definitely have all sorts of resources, including like mentoring, skill building, et cetera, if we can have the funding. And I agree with Ms. Brown, Ms. Safe Passage, but also supporting efforts to provide a more inclusive environment in after-school activities. I definitely see an avenue for the State Board of Education to maybe support after-school activities and like culture clubs and STEM clubs, et cetera. So thank you, I yield my time.
Thank you. Representative Best.
Thank you for coming out. You know, we talked about safety a lot last year, and we had like the definition. It's like the condition of, I think it was being and feeling safe. I kind of wrestle with like the restorative justice and appropriate consequences thing. And I think that's something that I think we as a district need to improve as well. Because as I speak to teachers from across DC, one thing that they constantly say is that there are no real appropriate consequences. And they feel like the pendulum is swung a little bit too far, and students can get away with stuff and leading to issues of like truancy. Someone just said that, you know, if parents don't feel that their kids are safe, they're not going to bring them to school. So not only being safe, but feeling safe as well and protected. I want to learn a little bit more about the victims transfer. If you could share a little bit more about that, I'd love to just learn a little bit more.
It was a blessing because the student that assaulted my daughter had a history of violence, and he'd never gotten in trouble for it. The assault on my daughter resulted in a 3-day suspension. And so my fear was that when he got back to school, he would harm her even more so, like physically violent. I was made aware of the victim's transfer possibility. You make a case, and if they agree to your reasoning, they'll move your kid to whatever school you want to move them to. Luckily in my neighborhood school was Patterson, but there was another elementary school that wasn't far away, which was Lecky. And so we were able to move her into Lecky through the help of the superintendent of schools. It happened in a day. It didn't take very long. So if you have a severe enough case, a victim's transfer is a possibility. It's something fast. And if your school is not living up to the promise of their bullying prevention policy, which they let this child run amok for the whole school year. My daughter wasn't the only person that was harmed. Sometimes that's the last resort. But it's very important. It's not something that's very well advertised. So that's why it's important for parents to know what their options are, so they have all of the tools that they are aware of all of the tools that they can use to make sure their kids can be safe.
Thank you. I only have 13 seconds, so no further questions. Thank you.
Representative Chang.
Thank you. What stood out to me tonight is how urgent it is that we find a response and a policy that actually works. And also want to flag that in addition to the live testimonies we also got written testimony from our ombudsman, Kimberly Humphrey, sharing how often families who report bullying aren't taken seriously or aren't followed up on. And Ms. Brown, I particularly want to thank you for reminding us how of the long-term toll that inaction can take on a child, and how critical it is for our families to know the rights and the tools that they can use. And Ms. Torres, thank you for lifting up how bullying doesn't stop at the school door, right? It moves with students through group chats, social media, and the routes that they walk. And so given all that, I actually want to take this as an opportunity to flag the work of Councilmember Brooke Pinto right now, my Ward 2 council member, and the chair of the Judiciary and Public Safety Committee, who's moving forward the Safe Passage Training and School Engagement Amendment Act right now. There were public testimonies today, and this bill is about more than getting kids to school safely. It's about building a network of trained, trusted adults who can recognize conflict early, step in and be a part of a coordinated support system between schools and communities. And it speaks directly to what we've heard tonight, and it's still being shaped. And so the council is still taking public feedback through May 7th. So to especially the panelists and the folks in the audience tonight, would appreciate your feedback to council on that bill, given what we've heard tonight. And I appreciate this chance to learn from you.
Thank you.
Representative Colson.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for your testimony. I want to spend my time with Ms. Clark, please. Ms. Clark, thank you for your testimony. I have a few questions. I'll try to make it quick. In your testimony, you said that students are referred to you by schools. Could you give me a rough estimate of the percentage, if you will, of referrals from schools?
The bulk of referrals that come from our past program are from schools. So if I had to give a rough estimate now, it would be somewhere around 60 to 70%.
Okay. And could you tell me, of that 60%, how many of your cases involve staff?
Staff?
Yes. So if the students are referred to because of an incident or a situation that involves students and staff, could you speak to that?
Very little. I mean, the majority of the time people are referred to us because of truancy, and then we understand and when learning about the truancy if there's a bullying incident or things of that nature. So it's not very much a conflict with the staff person, if I'm understanding.
Okay. Are there, of your other acronyms here, the other programs that you have here, are there programs that deal with conflict, physical conflict within the school that a student may be referred to you for?
Yeah, well, our ACE program, we receive referrals from the Office of the Attorney General, so a young person could be referred to us for like simple assault, and that could be between themselves and another student or staff. It's usually low level, but that would be an example, if that helps.
Yeah, that does help. Thank you. And then you said further in your testimony that you all complete service plans and identify strengths. Sounds like wraparound services. Are those case or are those referrals and recommendations then shared with the school or the social workers there to carry on those services when they return back to school?
Right. If the family sign and release the information and allow us to work with the counselor, then those are the types of information that we can share, and we do. Most of our work is teaming. We don't work in isolation, and many, many times we are sharing with the school what we're doing and looking for their support and continuance.
Thank you. And then one last question for you. You talked about the transfer if the school is deemed unhealthy. What information goes into that transfer, if you can speak about that, and how is the new school determined?
I can't speak about the details of what it takes to do the transfer, but I can just say that it takes multiple meetings, as you heard. I think for us, we try, like for instance, we just had a student who was LGBTQ, who was being harassed in the school that they were in, and we worked very closely to get them switched to a new school, and it was a better environment for them. But I did not do the actual transfer. I can't break down the process. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Representative Goulet.
I want to thank you all very much for coming out and sharing your perspectives on this issue. Ms. Brown, I particularly want to thank you for kind of detailing the experience you had with your own daughter and what she experienced. And I kind of got very focused on this issue when the Ombudsman raised last fall in the annual report the depth of the problem and really how there wasn't a solution to it other than what she proposed at the time was increasing the ability of students to transfer. And I think we reference COVID as a problem, but there was legislation passed by the DC Council that put all of this into effect, that removed accountability and took away the ability to hold students accountable. And I think restorative practices, when you have two students that are similarly situated who get in a fight, makes total sense. But having to put students through this, I hear over and over again from parents, they do not want a student that's been pervasively bullied subjected to this restorative practices process. The bullies don't take it seriously. The bullied student hates it. And it is a real problem, and I hear it over and over and over again, that there's no consequences anymore. That the students who bully and torment other children know they can get away with it, and they just keep doing it without consequence. And that, to me, is what needs to be corrected. All of this other, discussion is great, but until we restore consequences in the schools for students who choose to deliberately torment their peers, we're not addressing the real problem. So that's one thing I think we need to do. And, I am willing to, put the lead on that, keep this effort going and propose solutions that address that. Because I think this process has failed, and I think it's failing our students. And I hear it over and over and over again from parents that this is not working. It's a choice we made deliberately. We tried it out, and I think it's proven to have failed. And we should not be looking to make it easier for students to transfer. We should be looking to make those schools safe and hold the kids accountable who are acting wrong, because it does them no favors to act this way now and think they can get away with that later in life, because the options for that end after the school door. You end up going to jail, you end up being unhirable, and I think we need to really make a stand on this right now. So I want to thank you all for your stories. I think it's really powerful, and it shows what a parent who really cares about their kid can get done through the process. And I think that's why your daughter was successful. I think, unfortunately, a lot of people don't know how to navigate this process, and a lot of schools, as we've heard, aren't taking it seriously. They're not taking bullying seriously, and we are going in a direction that's going to continue to put our students in a position where they're harmed until we make real changes to this, and we make them quickly. So I want to thank you all again. I appreciate your testimony on the cyber front and on the school front. So thank you so much.
Representative Henderson.
Thank you all for your testimony. Ms. Clark, you mentioned the truancy reduction pilot program. Is there an program evaluation component to that project? And if so, who is conducting that, and what are they measuring? What are they looking for?
There's a mid-year report that's coming out to council this spring. It's in the final process of being approved. That will provide some preliminary data, and then there will be another report that comes out at the end of August that will provide a more full data set. The evaluation metrics are: does school attendance improve for young people who refer to the pilot? Do their academic grades improve? And are there episodes of delinquency? And then there's also a contrast from this school year to last school year. Some of the other measurements are about the interventions themselves, the reasons for the absences, and what were the services that DHS put in place.
Thank you. And Dr. Patchen, it may be too soon to know anything about this. You may have heard reference to DC looking at banning cell phones during the school day. And I'm just wondering if there is any research or any observations you have about any relationship between such bans and cyberbullying. I know that it happens outside the school day, but I'm just wondering if there's any connection that you've seen.
Yes, there's mixed evidence. So we actually wrote 2 blog posts in the last couple of months. So if you go to cyberbullying.org and go to our blog, we wrote one that focuses on the research and one that focuses on one principal's experience with banning phones and what he liked and what the challenges were. The punchline for the research is there's no research to suggest removing phones improves academic performance, improves mental health, but it certainly does remove the distraction associated with the devices. So, we're sort of agnostic with respect to the devices because, as you point out, most of the cyberbullying is happening away from school. But our perspective is more along the lines of focus on the behaviors you want to prevent versus the devices. So the bullying, the distractions, the cheating, those things. Have policies and responses towards those behaviors and teach students how to use the phones responsibly.
Thank you. Not much time left, but Ms. Brown, you talked about the transfer as a blessing. You also, in your testimony, noted that there was a cost to that as well of the disruption of moving your daughter. I'm just wondering, what would you have liked to have seen from the school that might have prevented you from taking that step?
If they had treated that child's issues more seriously, not let him roam around the school unattended, intervened the first time there was an incident, and not when it happened to my daughter.
Thank you.
That she could have stayed at her school with her teachers and her friends.
Thanks.
Representative Johnson Law.
Thank you all so much for your testimony. Ms. Brown, did you want to really quick finish your point that you were just making?
Say that again?
I know you got cut off. Did you want to quickly finish your point?
Well, yeah, I mean, the transfer protected her physically because I really thought that child was going to hurt her physically, but she transferred, if you can imagine a first grader who's been with her school all year, there was a week and a half left of school. She was transferred to a brand new class, a brand new school with brand new teachers after the whole school year had gone by. And she was not received well. She was bullied at that school as well because she was the new kid and they told her to go back to her old school and they wrote her nasty notes. I protected her body, but I harmed her spirit.
Yeah.
But, those are rough choices that you have to make.
Yeah. And then, Ms. Brown, if you don't mind, I want to stick with you for a moment. When families have continuously reported, hey, there's an issue, right? Even sometimes teachers, hey, there's a bullying issue, and nothing happens. What do you think the consequences should be, whether if it's with the school, whether it's like if you were in charge, what would that look like? Because we're talking about, okay, there's an accountability issue, and so there needs to be, there are things that need to happen in real time. How would you fix it?
I think that we need to make sure that they're actually, the law is the law, the policy is the policy, but is it actually happening? Is there actually a three-tier steps to address bullying? Is there prevention? Is there a look at culture? Are they actually actively working to keep the school bully-free and address the bullies and help them and help the people that are bullying them? That wasn't happening in her school at all. And I think if there was some oversight as to what the schools are actually doing, as opposed to what they're supposed to be doing, if they're actually doing it, then that's where the accountability. It wouldn't be an issue if my school was doing what they were supposed to be doing in the first place.
Thank you. And then in my last 43 seconds, Ms. Clark, thank you for your testimony. I'm just trying to figure out, as far as like students with disabilities, are you all just working with the OAG? Like, are you all working with post-secondary folks to help students with disabilities, or is there like a mental health provider? Like, are there other additional resources that you all are providing to families that have students with disabilities? And sorry, it's only 20 seconds.
Was that question for me? I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing. Or no?
It's okay, Ms. Clark. It was, but my time is up, so I will just email it to you. It's fine.
Okay, no problem. No problem, thank you.
Representative Thompson.
I want to thank everyone for their testimony. In reviewing what you all shared, I'm struck by, I guess it's probably Dr. Patchkin, and this idea that the best step is prevention. What I don't see as much information on in the testimonies is what prevention looks like and should look like. I heard you, Ms. Clark, say that our goal as a city is to make sure not only that students are safe, but they feel safe. And so I would love to hear from the panelists what the preventative action should look like, whether it's in response to cyberbullying or I guess we would think about traditional bullying. And anyone can respond.
I would try to go first, if that's okay. I'll try to be really quick since a lot of us, I mean, I think feeling safe is very nuanced, it's very subjective. I think that a diversified strategy would be my suggestion. We've heard about safe passage on the outside of school. There's got to be some response from, law enforcement, and I think in the school you need individual and collective types of strategies, groups, therapy, counseling, case management, support with parents who are also very disturbed and traumatized by the bullying. So I think it's multifaceted, prevention and intervention.
I would add, we've got lots of research on the prevention side. Again, I wrote a whole book on what we can do in a school culture, to improve the school culture. There's lots of research on improving the climate and very actionable things you can do in a school to improve that culture. But also, even just as simple as looking at your policy and what it says about addressing these behaviors, right? And I think, we've talked a lot about the victim transfer, and I don't know why we're not talking about transferring the aggressor, right? I mean, that's a response thing, but it's related to the prevention because students are reluctant to tell adults about their experience with bullying because they think they're going to be blamed and they're going to be consequenced. When it comes to cyberbullying, they think they're going to lose their technology. In the case of school bullying, they're going to get kicked out of their school and taken away from their friends. So why don't we focus on, holding the offender accountable and having them transfer schools? But if we create a culture where this kind of thing isn't tolerated by staff and students alike, it's not going to happen.
I think that whatever it looks like, it has to be open. I mean, there definitely need to be rules in a policy, but I like the fact that this policy is broad enough because every school community is different and they have different needs, they have different issues, and you need to allow schools the space to do the things that would be most effective for them.
Thank you.
Vice President Williams.
Thank you. And thank you to all of our expert testimony for tonight. I want to start by kind of acknowledging that I think this is a complex issue that is, also kind of ties with our general culture. I mean, and I don't think that is in lieu of doing nothing. Like, we absolutely have to make this a priority. And Mr. Patchen, I appreciate kind of your focus on school culture as both a state board member and as someone who's teaching every day. I see the pitfalls and consequences of not proactively building the positive school cultures that make students want to come to school and feel safe in school in the first place. And it's honestly disturbing how we seem to repeat the same mistakes each year by not proactively addressing these issues. But on a more positive note, Ms. Brown, you had mentioned just the role of the Office of Human Rights, and as a city, we've had that office understaffed during the pandemic, and we've since got it up to full capacity, and I'm glad that it's been able to be helpful for you in being proactive and advocating for your daughter. And I think that we need to continue to have a citywide policy in which we push the resources into schools in the beginning of the school year so that there's clarity around how teachers, staff, students should respond and know what to do when things come up, because if not, then people are isolated and don't know necessarily what to do when things do arise. Ms. Torres, you had mentioned that some action steps could be around modernizing and standardizing reporting and making things clear and more consistent. Can you speak to just one or two things that you think would be helpful?
Sure. So one of the things, and we have more on this on our annual report as well, but for standardizing and modernizing, I think the Youth Bullying Prevention Act, yes, we talk about cyberbullying, but I think without the context necessarily of how social media plays a role. And so one of the things that I think we need to talk about that we heard a lot in our student safety conversations was how students go to social media to then kind of escalate what is being something that could be verbal. And so I think Opening back up the Youth Bullying Task Force would look like inviting our students and our experts and seeing what is the reality of using social media and how can we, not just through cell phone usage, but look at like the systems approach and look at what are the causes of these conversations. So I would definitely say I can share with you the annual report to go a little bit more on that modernization as well.
President Patterson?
All right. Thank you so much, Director. And to each one of the panelists, thank you so much for coming before us and testifying and giving us vital insight. I'm going to direct my questions to Ms. Brown as a fellow parent with DCPS children and having interactions recently with the Office of Integrity and some of this. You said a number of things that really kind of piqued my nerves and kind of angered me as a parent as well. You talked about your daughter having to transfer, and Mr. Patchkins also said, you know, we didn't focus on the actual aggressive stuff. So I guess my question is this: did they explain to you why the aggressor was not transferred and why your child had to use a victim transfer as opposed to that child? Was it an age issue? What was the reason why they did not transfer the aggressor? Or they stated to you?
Well, the principal told me that the student who assaulted my daughter and had assaulted other girls prior to my daughter had an IEP.
Mm-hmm.
And because of his IEP, he was protected from certain things.
Mm-hmm.
And so the most that they could do, because it wasn't just bullying, it was a sexual assault.
Right.
The police were called, but the
Mhm.
most that they could do.
So you're
was,
saying CARES came in as well. Was there a CARES investigation as well?
No,
Okay.
no, just a police report,
Okay.
which then triggered the most that they could do. They said was suspend him for 3 days, but because he had a history of both physical and sexual assault, I wasn't willing to let her stay in that environment after he'd gotten in trouble for bothering her. I was really worried about her safety.
And what about the mental health of your daughter? You also mentioned that and what that meant for her, both leaving her friends that she had made friends with over a number of years and going to a new school. Did they give you any kind of support around her mental health and her transfer? Was there anything?
Well, the school that she went into had support groups. They had a girls group because the bullying didn't stop when she was transferred. But the difference between the two schools were that they were truer to their policies and they had programs and things. So when incidents happened, they addressed them. And that just felt safer to me than, just letting, bullies, run free around the school.
And my time is about done, but I will just say this. I appreciate you coming before us, speaking about your daughter, speaking about it from a parent's perspective of when this actually happens in real time. Also that, there's a range of variation as far as how people implement this and how it's carried out in practice. So I really appreciate you identifying that for us. That is my time. What I will say now is that I want to thank the panelists, each one of you guys, for coming for us and giving us such insightful and thoughtful testimony. The State Board will now recess for a short period of time. Members, please return within, I'm going to do a 5 minutes, and that would be basically 6:53. If you guys could all return at 6:53 within 5 minutes, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you again. bring us back in just a few minutes. So hurry within the next 30 seconds. I'm going to bring us back. Finish up conversations. Okay, no problem. Okay, no problem. No problem. But I got 1, 2, 3. Where the rest of our members? I said 5 minutes. There are members in the hallway. We are about to reconvene. Representative Goulet, if you can make your way back up, sir. Representative Colson. Thank you, ma'am. We hear testimony from public witnesses at every public meeting, and your comments become part of our official records. If you would like to speak at a future public meeting, which includes virtual options, please sign up on our website at sboe.dc.gov or contact our staff, our great staff, by email at sboe@dc.gov or by phone at 202-741-0888. Sign-up closes 48 hours, 2 days, before the public meeting. Tonight, we have 14 public witnesses who have signed up to share this evening. As a reminder, all public witnesses must share a copy of their testimony with the staff at sboe@dc.gov so we can add it to the public record. We will hear from those in attendance in a panel format. Each witness will have up to 3 minutes to provide comment. If you are with us in person, please note that you must use one of the microphones that are at the table, which are already on. After each panel concludes, we will pause for questions from the State Board members. If members have questions for public witnesses, they will have up to 3 minutes again. And those 3 minutes include your question and comments from the panel. Director Butler, will you call the public witnesses in group and announce the question round? She will also assist with timing to ensure we stay strict to our 3 minutes, and there are a lot of time. Director Butler, please call the first round of public witness. Thank you.
Gretchen Swisher. Sally Schwartz, Laura Fuchs, Leah Pierce, Robin Roche, Resch. Yeah, no. Oye. Oh, but he's not here. Sabrina Wang. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I have too many people. So, Ms. Wang, if you, she came up early. I got confused. They moved at the same time. Right there. All right, we will start with Ms. Schwartz. Ms. Swisher is not here, correct? Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sally Schwartz, representing Globalized DC, a local nonprofit that works to increase access for DC public school students to global education and language learning. I'm here to speak out today against OSSE's current proposal to reduce the high school social studies requirement from 4 credits to 3 by reducing the teaching of world history from 2 years to 1. As a first step in its Reimagining High School Graduation Requirements initiative, OSSE created a new graduate profile with public input meant to guide the reform process. Its preamble states, quote, "It will be used to reimagine how collectively as a city, all DC students are prepared to face a rapidly changing and increasingly culturally diverse and interconnected world. We cannot achieve this guiding vision by taking the world out of our students' education. In our current social studies standards, students learn about the world in grade 2, ancient history, in grade 6, world geography, and then 2 years of world history in high school. That is all. To lose a year of world history would, in my view, be educational malpractice, particularly in this current moment when everyday critical decisions are being made on global issues: foreign trade and tariffs, Gaza, Ukraine, NATO, Panama, Canada, Greenland, foreign assistance, human rights, global disease, terrorism, national security, nuclear weapons, global climate change, immigration and refugee policy, and so on. In more normal times, I would be arguing that we need more opportunities to teach all students about current global events, content that is almost completely absent in the standards. But for now, we need to preserve the status quo. We are living through a constitutional crisis with real questions about the survival of our democracy and our country's role on the international stage. This is not the time to reduce what our students learn about their history, our government, and our place in the world. Now, OSSE has justified its proposal to reduce social studies requirements by pointing out that 34 states currently require 3 or fewer social studies credits. But DC is not other states. We live in a social studies town. Detroit has auto manufacturing, Silicon Valley has tech, DC is uniquely rich in educational resources and job opportunities tied to social studies, government, law, public policy, national security, diplomacy, museums, if we keep them. In addition, unlike other states, we are disenfranchised without representation in Congress. Until we have our full rights as US citizens, we should feel obligated to equip our students with all the knowledge that will help them achieve their full citizenship when the rest of us have failed to do so. Thank you.
Ms. Fuchs.
Thank you. My name is Laura Fuchs. In October of 2024, DCPS secretly made a unilateral decision to end the green card policy that they had previously been using as part of the end results of the H-1B program that they began around 2019 and 2020. The H-1B program was meant and started by DCPS to recruit teachers from abroad to fill persistent vacancies, especially around our language acquisition teachers, dual language programs, foreign language programs, but also other persistently hard to fill positions like math and special education. It started relatively small and has been steadily increasing to where now we have between 200 to 300 teachers who are here in DCPS on an H-1B visa. Let us be perfectly clear. DCPS is pulling the rug out from underneath the feet of the people that have uprooted their lives, come to DC, and are teaching our students who have become valued members of the community with, as you will see, almost zero communication, zero compassion, and zero empathy. This affects their families, their students, their school communities, and more. International educators have bought homes, sent their kids to public schools, and have kids in college on scholarship. All of that will be ripped away because of this one decision. They are providing a vital service to our schools. If they weren't, DCPS wouldn't be constantly expanding their program. And nobody would be taking DCPS up on an H-1B if there wasn't at least a pathway to a green card. It makes no sense because it is temporary. An H-1B visa is a temporary work permit that is filled out by an employer. It lasts for 3 years and can be renewed only one time. After 6 years, the H-1B can no longer be used. This means anyone in the country will either have to get a green card or a different visa to prolong their stay. When they hired teachers on the H-1B, DCPS clearly communicated to them that if they worked hard, got good evaluation scores, and got a recommendation from their principal, they would be eligible through a competitive process. 2 cohorts of teachers have gone through this process and are just starting to get their green cards now. Because the process can take 1 to 2 years to complete, teachers who are about to be eligible began reaching out to DCPS, asking what the next steps were to begin the application. At first, they received no information, literally radio silence. Then there were rumblings that something might be changing. By January, we were told that back in October, DCPS decided to pause the program indefinitely. The stated reasoning at first was due to a lack of funding. Those who were alarmed that their plans to stay teaching in DCPS were coming to a very sudden halt tried to problem solve. DCPS said it costs around $10,000 per teacher. So international teachers reached out to their principals, some of whom said they'd be willing to use local school funds. DCPS said that wouldn't work, so was it the money? Upon further probing, we were informed that it was really a paperwork issue. There was too much paperwork, that it wasn't very well organized in the past, so it is too much to be done by one lawyer currently assigned. We have a resolution in here that you could adapt. We have a parent letter, and we're asking for $200,000 in this next budget cycle. We want you to amplify that request. Thank you.
Thank you. Leah Pierce.
Let me just get this microphone up to my, okay. To begin with, I would like to introduce myself and my co-presenter. I am Leah Pierce, president and founder of the Basis DC Chinese Culture Club, aka CCC.
I am Sabrina Wang, Vice President of Basis DC Chinese Culture Club.
Speaking from experience, founding a culture club is not easy. It requires a lot of focus, time, and energy. First, to establish a culture club, and then to create events and topics of discussion. And lastly, to recruit classmates to join your club. It is even harder to coordinate school community events that spread your club's focus outside of the club. Often at schools that do not prioritize humanities or cultural-based extracurriculars, or at schools that do not have a clear guide on how to manage culture clubs, students can feel discouraged to start culture clubs.
Going off of what Leah said, as a high school student, I didn't feel supported enough to found a culture club because I felt like my school didn't give us enough knowledge on how to organize a club or how to get people to join them. I joined the Chinese Culture Club because I felt that it was interesting and I could better understand the culture. But if I was to start one myself, I'd feel insecure because, since I wouldn't know what to do first. Our school doesn't provide us with any articles or resource examples that help us learn about specific topics we need to focus on for creating clubs, and this might be a case for other schools too.
So when I became a freshman in high school, I founded the first Chinese Culture Club at my school, also the first and only culture club at my school today. And our school, my club, through trial and error, we have established the first annual Lantern Festival event and Asian American and Pacific Islander Month celebration, which actually enables the entire school to engage in multiculturalism and diversity efforts that occurred within our first year of founding, and we continue to do these events till today. And nonetheless, there are still schools where multiculturalism is not fully embraced. So I created the DC Cultural Club standards, which are based off of the DC Social Studies standards, and also it's and also I've created a drive of resource and templates for people to model advertisements and PowerPoints and lessons for these clubs. So it's very efficient and easy for students to found clubs at their school, have events, have coordination, and also be able to recruit students. So I believe that these standards can be a huge stepping stone for students in wanting to encourage internationalism within DC, because after all, DC has an extremely international and global population, and it's very diverse. However, these populations are not represented when we do not have cultural clubs. So I'm here today to ask SBOE to endorse the resources through 1, signing our endorsements page, 2, publishing the resources on the SBOE website, and 3, emailing public schools about the resources.
Thank you. Ms. Wang?
Sorry,
Are you Sabrina?
I'm Robin.
Yes,
Robin
Ms.
Rash.
Wang.
Nope, they went together.
Oh, so you're not testifying separately?
Well,
we were together.
Got it. Y'all signed up separately.
You guys could have talked for 6 minutes is what they're saying.
I was very confused. Okay. Robin.
All right. Good evening, members of the State Board of Education. My name is Robin Resch, and I serve on the PTO board at Chisholm Elementary School. I'm also the proud mom of 2 girls at Chisholm, Eleanor in kindergarten and Lucy in pre-K 3. Thanks to Chisholm's incredible dual language program, Eleanor already speaks Spanish better than I do, which she's not shy about pointing out to me. It's been an absolute joy to watch both of my children grow not only academically, but also as bilingual learners in such a nurturing, diverse community. But like many families at Chisholm, I worry about what comes next. I'm here to share more about our community-led campaign, Creciendo Chisholm, which envisions expanding Chisholm into a pre-K through 8 education campus during our upcoming modernization to address a pressing gap in our city, equitable access to dual language middle schools, especially for families in wards 6, 7, and 8. Located in Ward 6, Chisholm is a thriving dual language and arts integrated DCPS school with a diverse student population. But once our students complete 5th grade, their options become limited. The programmatic feeder is McFarland Middle School, located in Northwest, which is simply too far for most families. In practice, almost no Chisholm students continue in the dual language track, and as a result, many students lose the bilingual skills they worked so hard to build, and families often leave DCPS altogether. This is a systemic equity issue. Right now, all dual language middle school options are concentrated in Northwest DC, while schools like Chisholm and Houston Elementary, serving large populations on the east side of DC, have no nearby options. Our campaign is grounded in the belief that all families deserve a clear and accessible pathway to continue dual language learning through middle school. The DME's 2023 Boundary and Student Assignment Study speaks directly to this issue. It recommends that DCPS develop a citywide plan by 2026 to ensure that every dual language elementary school has a dual language middle school in relative proximity. It specifically calls out Chisholm and Houston schools as schools without accessible continuation pathways. A middle school at Chisholm would fulfill this goal and create a long overdue equity and access to dual language education. We believe this is a smart and timely investment. It builds on a modernization that's already funded in the capital budget, has strong community support, and it would serve not just our students, but families across Wards 6, 7, and 8 who are seeking consistent bilingual education. A recent survey of our school community showed that 96% of Chisholm families value the dual language program, and 93% are enthusiastic about adding a middle school. I understand that DCPS and city leaders face tough budget decisions, but this is an opportunity to make meaningful progress towards language equity, enrollment retention, and program continuity without needing to start from scratch. At Chisholm, we have a saying that we are all champions for change, and what better way to embody this mindset than by championing the addition of a dual language middle school so that we can empower our students with the skills and knowledge they need to succeed in an increasingly interconnected world. We hope the board will continue to support policies that promote geographic equity and program alignment in dual language education, and we welcome your partnership in helping us build a stronger, more inclusive future for all of our students. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now start with a round of member questions. Representative Ting.
Yes, I actually don't have that many questions. I appreciate all of your testimony tonight. I would like to specifically talk about the culture club thing. I have experience having basically founded my math club. It died and I refounded it, and also leading the programming club at my school. It is really hard to figure out how to grow a club and how to create a club. It's not intuitive, and just you have to do a lot of recruitment and wrangling a lot of kids. It's really hard. So having a guideline with templates and PowerPoints would have been so helpful. And I definitely believe that Leah's done that Leah's done a great job with this, and I fully support distributing these resources. They're extremely efficient, and they're just really useful. I believe that as for the specific avenue, I'm not quite sure about like the syntax, but I think a CR or an SR could help, like so that we could officially put this on the website and use our voices to distribute this somehow. And in addition, I will continue with following up, especially with like, you know, some of our representatives work with like KIPP DC or School Without Walls, and we definitely want to allow the kids in these schools to have access to these resources. I fully support the culture club thing, and I guess with some of my extra time, I'd also like to express my support for other things that have been brought up, including the importance of being access to humanities courses, especially like AP humanities courses do great for kids who want to study that stuff in college. I would like to express my condolences for our many immigrant teachers who I didn't even know were being deported, which is insane. I express my condolences, and I also express my appreciation of the testifying in the importance of dual language programs. Dual language is also obviously very important, which kind of ties into the culture club thing. I yield my time.
Representative Barnes.
Forgot about that, Mike. Well, I do not have any questions either. I would like to definitely piggyback on what Representative Ting was saying about the Culture Club. I do believe it is an awesome idea. It is an awesome initiative. And also, expanding it to areas such as Ward 8, which is where I'm from, it'd definitely be amazing because it'd definitely empower our youth to ensure that they, reflect nothing but positivity, reflect nothing but the best. And so, actually, I did have a question aloud. I apologize. My one question would be, how do you feel as if we can empower other young people to get involved and be willing to start initiatives like this? Because, as you said, it is very difficult to start things like this. However, how do you feel as if we can assist, or not even we, but at other young people and the educators and faculty, how can they assist young people with starting these programs?
Thank you so much for both Representative Barnes and Ting, your support for the cultural club standards. So to answer your question, Representative Barnes, I think that young people can get on board with spreading multiculturalism through one. That the SOB can help endorse this when endorsing the standards. So I think accessibility is extremely important. Obviously, you can't do something if you don't have the materials to do it. So I think through putting the standards on the SBOE website, and if possible, if any of the representatives could maybe email your classmates or colleagues or people that you know are connected to schools, or who are interested in either sponsoring a culture club or starting one, that would be extremely helpful, because I think that a lot of DC students and youth, speaking for my own schools and other examples such as like the Banneker Muslim Student Association and Banneker Chinese Cultural Club, who we've already given these standards to, are extremely happy to use these standards to create broader school-wide events. And I just think that it's just a matter of people having accessibility to the resources to make cultural clubs.
Thank you so much. I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you, Representative Chang.
Yeah, I'm the Ward 2 rep, so I get to represent BASIS, and it's great to see BASIS students come forward to testify today. My question to you is, what resources did you turn to ultimately that were helpful?
Right, so when I first started my club, and actually before I even made these standards, I really was using, it was honestly ideas. When it came to advertising, I knew that the culture club obviously wasn't going to get a lot of attention since it's not a STEM based club, which is more popular at my school. So I had to kind of get innovative. I would have to think about, okay, what can I do that can really get people's eye, catch people's eye to make them want to join the club. So I would use Canva to print out like templates, flyers, posters. I would use my school's morning announcements to make morning announcements to try to get people to give attention to our club so they could at least look at it and maybe think, hey, that's a new thing, that's something interesting, and I want to join it. So I really was trial and error, and I think through my 3 years of running the Chinese Culture Club and seeing what works and what has not worked, I have compiled a Google Drive as well as the standards to kind of talk about that and also give a basis, or at least like a standard of ideas that people can have to spread interest in culture clubs.
And how did your school teachers or administrators support you during this time?
Right. So my Mandarin teacher, Miss Lee, she has been extremely supportive of our club. She would constantly bring up we would come up with club events, for example, the Lantern Festival and the Asian American and Pacific Islander Month celebration. She would bring those ideas up in the teachers meet that my school has, and so that would obviously spark other teachers to be like, hey, maybe I can bring my class or I can tell my class about XYZ event to get more participation, as well as collaboration with other clubs. So Math Club has collaborated, yes, of course, ran by Ryan Ting, has actually collaborated with Chinese Culture Club to run the Lantern Festival. Yep. And so I think through collaborating with other clubs is also a great thing about cultural clubs too, because they're very flexible and you can always, there's something in it for everybody. And I think having that kind of flexibility and also kind of fun element that you're learning something new about another people's is really immersive and engaging for the entire school.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Representative Colson.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for your testimony. I concur with what everyone has said. I don't have a question. I just want to say that I always think about the end, starting with the end in mind. And so I know that we have made great gains in terms of post-pandemic test scores. But I also know that when our students graduate, often they are in remedial classes. I also know that our reading scores and our math scores leave a lot to be desired. I know that when our students graduate and they are compared to other students coming here to DC to work, they make substantially less money compared to data from the Deputy Mayor of Education. So I say all that to say we should not be going backwards. We should not be lowering standards. We should keep them and keep going forward because we want our students to be more than prepared, not just minimally prepared. And I want to say that I support the clubs and the dual language and everything that we can do to make sure that our students and our graduates can stand shoulder to shoulder, if not above, students from across the country, because that's who they're competing with. We are Washington, D.C. We are the nation's capital. Some students are not going to some small town to get a job. They're coming to D.C. And we want our students to be able to be employed here and be able to afford to live and reside here and still call DC home if they want to. So let's move onward and upward, not backwards. Thank you all. I yield.
Thank you. Representative Goulet.
I want to thank you all for coming out. I agree with everything this panel has said. We'll start with Ms. Pullum. I support that. I think having that track for students who are learning language is very important. I can't wait to work with my colleague, Representative Best, to see how we would be able to advocate for that. Ms. Schwartz, I wholeheartedly agree with you. We should not be cutting social studies. I'm not going to support cutting social studies, and OSSE needs to realize that things like social studies, math are essential. I mean, social studies right now are more important than ever than to understand your world, your country, and what is important. So I'm going to support, keeping the standards where they are. To our great students who came in, Ms. Pierce and Ms. Wang, this is really exciting. I cannot wait to work with you and our great committee on student experience and engagement. We have 3 great student reps on our committee as well, and there will be some graduating, so if either of you have an interest in serving as student board members, the application process will commence. So when will it commence? May 15th it will. So take a look at that as a possibility. But I love how we're going to try to connect to other students in other schools and provide this resource, and I can't wait to see how we would get that up on the website. And then lastly, with Ms. Fuchs, I think I have the most questions for you. I agree completely with what you're saying. I mean, this to me seems like a huge loss for DCPS as we struggle to retain teachers, to lose experienced teachers who we've recruited in and then basically to pull the program away. And you're saying it's all because they can't basically have the staff resources to do the appropriate paperwork, basically.
Well, we don't know the real reason because it does keep shifting. So
Okay.
like we're getting from the lawyer themselves, the one person assigned saying kind of different things, but we know they're not the one making the decision and they're trying to do the best they can within this circumstance. So we don't blame the lawyer, who's the only one who's been willing to communicate with us from DCPS. So we don't really know, right? It could be money, could be staffing, which is obviously money, but we don't know.
I mean, on the money side of it, though, I feel like it's going to cost us a lot more to have to bring in new teachers. So
they are expanding H-1B. These are
Yeah.
the first teachers that were on the small numbers. So like the 200,000 admittedly, that's a starter. That's for this year, the people who immediately need the support because otherwise they do have to leave the country, some of them this summer. But they've hired like over 100 in the past 2 years. So it's going to expand from only having about 20 people who are in the situation to far more.
Yeah.
So what are they doing?
It doesn't make sense. Well, I'll be excited to work with you, our staff and other members up here to try to get some answers to this and then support continuing the program.
Expand to a language. Where is this coming from?
Okay, well, great. Well, thank you all for your testimony. I'm grateful you all showed up today to speak in person, so thanks for coming out, and look forward to working with you all.
Thank you. Representative Henderson.
I'll just continue with you, Ms. Fuchs. So my understanding is that there were about 24 teachers who initially in 2023 who got money for this, to do that transition from the H1 to green card. And could you just say again, like what are the numbers of the people who are H1 who have not yet been?
So we don't entirely know. Like we've tried to do some research through like what the government kind of puts forward as like how many were applied for. We're trying to do more internally through the WTU to try to get an accurate sense as well. So that's kind of ongoing. But DCPS has reported itself that it's between 200 to 300. So I mean, they're reporting as in total, right? Because I mean, they hired people last year. Like if they were planning to like cancel this the way they just did
And they're
in
recruiting.
October, they
Yeah.
just hired people who came in September on H-1Bs. So like, what are they doing?
And so how has it been budgeted in the past? So it
So
was
they're-
budgeted
they're
at some
saying
point
it
and then
came
they
through
just stopped.
ESSER funds.
Oh, okay. And that's,
But they started the program in 2019. It got kind of pushed off because of course, the pandemic. So like, they were already planning to start it pre-pandemic, pre-ESSER funds. So I mean, there was a plan in place. And it's not that much money to fill a clear need, right? And once you pay it, like there could be deals worked out, like, okay, you're gonna stay here for another 5 years, 10 years, whatever. You could work out a deal where it's like, yeah, because once you pay for it, you know, if they just left, that's kind of leave a DCPS in the lurch. But like, there's programs out there that have those kind of stipulations that you make an agreement to commit to the district for a chunk of time. So I mean, like, it's a lower cost in the end. Like $10,000, I know, like, it's not that much when it comes down to it.
we've seen stats on what it costs to replace a teacher, which I think, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it exceeds that, I believe, or is comparable. Ms. Schwartz, thank you for a strong statement in support of retaining the 4 years of social studies. I'm already convinced that that's a need. OSSE has indicated to us that what they shared last fall was very much a first draft, and so I am hopeful that by the time we see a proposal, they may have changed from that. They have indicated that they've changed on the math proposal that they've made. So I'm hopeful that when we see a proposal, it will have 4 years of social studies. I'll just stop now because it won't work.
Okay, Representative Representative Thompson.
Good evening. I don't know how testimony sign-up worked this month, but this is an interesting through line we have here. I'll start with my questions first. I am curious, and maybe this is a bit of a follow-up conversation that needs to happen with the Chisholm families. What conversations have you already had? Like, have you already talked to DCPS? Are we your first stop?
No, I've talked to everybody. Well, almost everybody. I've been in contact with.
Could you use the mic?
Oh, yeah.
No worries.
I've been in touch with Charles Allen, our Ward 6 rep. I've also emailed everybody else on the council. I've been in close contact with Sharona Robinson, who's our community, our CAT member. I had a conversation with the Ward 7 Ed Council, Marla Dean, actually just last night.
I know, she called me.
Oh, did she? We had a very long conversation that went over time. But I have a meeting with Jennifer Comey from DME on Thursday, and I'm meeting with the principal over at Jefferson next week. The week after that, a common thing that comes up with that a lot is that we hear from DCPS is, well, why don't they just expand the dual language? Why don't they just expand the Spanish that's at Jefferson, which is our in-boundary feeder right now? One, I don't think that's even further away from trying to help other people in other wards, specifically Ward 7. I'm thinking of Houston as they're the other DCPS school. And I'm trying to think who else. So
that's
talk
helpful.
to her
I mean, I saw your email yesterday. I talked to Representative Best earlier today. I do have some questions like that are probably better suited for DCPS, so I'm happy to follow up about, like, you know, the modernization, their moves away from K-8s, what that means for like the larger education, all the things. As we think about the potential of this proposal, I'm happy to share those with you as well. I don't have questions for the rest of the panel because I hear what you're saying. It makes sense. I would like to know from the students, and I'm happy to probably connect with you through your colleague, Representative Ting, just like more about your experience and what, like, the starting of the program. I'm not going to try to make you answer that in 15 seconds because I wouldn't be able to do that. But I appreciate everyone's testimony, and we'll follow up with folks with questions. And always good to see you, Sally and Laura. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Best.
Yeah, so this is like one of the few times where I'm like, oh, I want to speak to everyone. Laura, thanks for bringing up the issue. I was completely unaware. I'm going to connect with Representative Goulet to figure out like how we can also assist on that as well. Sally, yes, I spoke out on this in our last meeting in the time where the country seems to be like, you know, cutting social studies and eliminating books. I think we need to lead the pack instead of following those who are moving backwards. Leah, and all the students, like both of you, like I love it, right? Like, continue leading the way. Like when you don't see the things that you need, create it. As they also said, make sure you all apply. You know, there's a good opportunity to get your voices heard here. Robin, we're going to support you. I'm going to support you. Well, I'm going to support you. I know I'm looking forward to connecting with Representative Goulet as well. But my question to you is, like, what are you most worried about, like with the school population and the parent population if this doesn't happen?
Based on an ongoing survey right now, most people have said that they're going to leave, and most people have said that they're not interested, that they do not plan to stay in the DCPS feeder pattern as it stands right now. The majority of people have said that they would probably go to private school or try to lottery into another school that's closer. I know I'm in that camp as well. It's really sad to see our kids that have worked really hard to gain all of these skills, and DCPS has poured all of this money and resources into standing up these programs, and just to like leave these kids hanging is really unfortunate. Yeah, DCPS as it stands right now has said that, you know, the scope of the modernization project has already been set, but they also will tell us that we're in the pre-design phase, which means they don't even actually have plans for the school yet. So I see this as a really unique opportunity to kind of take advantage of an already funded modernization. We have $101 million, which is the largest elementary modernization budget in the current SIP. I don't think that this could happen with just that budget, but I think that a little bit more is a really long-term, it'd be thinking a lot more long-term, because Chisholm is growing at an exponential rate. Since we've introduced the dual language program, we have seen our wait list this past year was like 300 students. People want to come to our school. We have an awesome principal. Who knows if she'll stay forever, but I think that we've proven that we have an awesome school community, and just to continue to grow it would be really beneficial for a lot of people, not just at Chisholm, but at other dual language schools.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Vice President Williams.
Yes, thank you all for your testimony. Laura, I appreciate you continually raising this issue. It's something that I'm continuing trying to get clarity what the chancellor about and what like particular cause is. So with the ask that you had, the 200,000, what do you think that could do? What benefit would it have in particular?
DCPS said it costs $10,000 per person. There's about 20 that need immediate green card support. So that's why this really is just for school year 25-26, because these again are the early H-1B visa teachers who came here. So it would have to go up after this year, but for this year, we believe that would cover it. Speaking with Chairman Mendelson's office, they think it's a pretty accurate assessment. DCPS could use it to hire another lawyer. They could use it to just to do what they say the $10,000 costs, whatever that is. But that's our ask of the council for this budget cycle. It's not gonna fix the immediate, like, that they spent a whole year not doing it, which is a problem for a lot of people, so we probably need expedited paperwork for some, but it would at least hopefully solve the problem moving forward. And we think a law is the only way to force DCPS's hand because they're being so cagey about why they've stopped it. And so we just want the council to actually take a stand and be like, nope, this is money, you must spend it on this, which means you must restart the program.
Thank you. That helps me gain a little clarity with that. Sally, thank you for how focused you are with this issue with social studies. It's inspiring and helps me stay motivated too, both as a classroom teacher and as someone on the state board. So I'm committed to also trying to expand that as well. Leah and Sabrina, I appreciate your leadership and you being here today. I think you also had great solutions for this issue to like help minimize the barriers to students at other schools. You had named having the state board like promote the process on our website. What were the other solutions that you thought could be helpful on this issue?
Yes. So my solutions were, one, promoting it on the website, but also on our standards, we have an endorsements page. I think signing the standards, or at least having the SBOE review it, would obviously give some, I think, accreditation to the standards. And then two, if the representatives or SBOE could email public schools about the standards to make sure people know about it, if they're not checking the SBOE website, is also helpful.
Great. Yeah, that sounds reasonable. So let's be in touch about how we can do that. Yeah, I have about 20 seconds. So Robin, thank you for your advocacy as well. It's an issue that's come across my plate as well, even not being in that feeder pattern, but I understand the ask, so thank you.
President Patterson.
Thank you, Director. My colleagues have basically asked questions that I needed answer, so I won't talk just to be talking. I will ask Ms. Fuchs, did you submit your testimony, ma'am, to us?
Yeah, but I did it this afternoon, so it might not be up yet.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because I didn't see it in my materials, and I just wanted to make sure that we had it. And the reason that I wanted to have it was you asked for 3 or 4 things toward the end of it. Can you state those again that you would like the board support?
Yeah, we have just a couple resources that we've been using. I did not adapt them for the SBOE, to be honest. I just included them. So one is a letter that we've just written that people can copy and paste and send, to the DC Council, Chancellor, just indicating support. And of course, coming from a State Board of Ed member, or any version, of course, thereof, I think would, communicate that like more people are watching, like you need to reconsider this decision. And there's also a resolution that our union voted on and passed unanimously, and so potentially, changing the wording there could be used as just a resolution of support that we stand by our international educators and that we're not leaving them behind. Because I think, unfortunately, that's how they feel by the government right now, right? And I think advocacy is going well. There's a lot of support on the council, it seems like, but we don't want to take anything for granted. We also know DCPS sometimes receives money and then does whatever they want with it, or refuses to spend it, or says, oh, well, there's a problem, we can't do it right now, but we'll do it sometime in the future. So we want to make sure they know eyes are on them and the pressure is on. Like, if we're gonna give you this money that you say you need to do this, then you are going to do it.
Thank you so much. I just want to say that I believe me and my colleagues, most of us support those type of things, and we look forward to following up on those requests that you have for us. I have no further questions. I yield back.
Thank you. Thank you all for testifying today at our public meeting. We will now call our next round of public witnesses. Lindsay Pullum. Lindsay Pullum. John Aloof. Latia Loring. Lataya Loring. Kiana Lamont. Sibio Saul. Saul? Katie Riley? Is Jennifer Lilienthal here? Jennifer? Okay. We'll start with you, Lindsay.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Lindsay Pullum, and I'm writing on behalf of the YMCA DC Youth in Government Program, a program offered to teens by the YMCA of Metropolitan Washington. And I really just wanted to come and share with you the latest success of civically engaged teens. On April 4th and 5th of 2025, DC Youth in Government hosted its largest conference of the year, where students from across 11 middle schools and high schools from all 8 wards debated original legislation that they researched and wrote. We hosted this event here at the State Board of Education at 1 Judiciary Square and the City Council at the John A. Wilson Building downtown. And through our civics curriculum, students use stats and relevant research to outline a problem in their community and school before proposing their own solution through public policy. Then, in a group of their peers, students amended, debated their ideas to make their policy solutions even stronger. Students in leadership roles like the superintendent for the Board of Education, the City Council chair, they moderated debate and ensured that each bill was heard fairly and equitably. Finally, our youth mayor took individualized meetings with student bill authors to see how their ideas would better the city. And the result is the highest caliber bill ideas of how students want to see their cities improved. So of the 45 bills that were written, 27 were passed, and 11 of them were specifically about education. So I just want to give you a sample of 2 that I think would pique some of your interests. Like, for example, one bill written by a student from Jackson Reed High School wrote a bill that required all public and public charter schools to receive DC funding to dedicate 5 hours during professional development days to teach teachers and staff first aid, because on average, 1 of 7 young people die every day from firearm-related injuries. And so her bill was the idea that we should equip our students with first aid training. Another bill from a student from Washington Latin Public Charter School was for DC Educators Literacy Initiative, a program designed as a free after-school activity for schools to offer kids who desire extra help from teachers and student tutors to improve their literacy, writing, and reading comprehension skills. Clearly, our teens have thoughts about their own lives, and it's important we listen to them when they tell us what's working and what's not. They are committed to equity and creativity, and they balance thoughtfulness and realism. This board is already committed to serving youth and families, but I ask you to go one step further. I ask that you take teens seriously if and when they approach you about sponsoring these ideas in the form of real legislation in the coming months. This as much is an opportunity for teens to develop themselves, sharpen their writing and research skills, as it is solving real-life problems in our communities. Thank you.
You can go ahead, John.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is John Elfuth. I'm a Ward 5 resident, a future DCPS parent, and the spouse of a DC teacher. I'm also an expert in the field of state competency-based education policy, and I'm here in my personal capacity to suggest recommendations for strengthening the district's existing competency-based structures as we revise our graduation requirements. Competency-based education allows students to demonstrate proficiency in college and career-ready knowledge, skills, and dispositions at a time and a place that makes sense to them. While district schools are certainly not fully competency-based, we have taken steps in that direction. For example, schools can use an OSSE flexibility waiver to create competency-based courses, and the district has created its own draft portrait of a graduate as a part of its graduation requirements. OSSE has also reported public interest in this area. A fall 2024 presentation on a district-wide survey noted that allowing alternative ways for students to demonstrate competencies as a substitution for Carnegie units was the 3rd highest area of interest. These are good first steps. However, I believe there is more that can be done to encourage the use of competency-based practices here in the district. I offer 3 recommendations for the board to consider. Recommendation 1, study competency-based work to date. The district's competency-based waiver is grounded in DC Municipal Regulation 2203.7, which requires that OSSE publicly make available, and I quote, aggregated evidence of annual implementation in a summative report. Additionally, OSSE waiver states that, quote again, DCPS and DCPSCB will report annually on each school that they granted a waiver to award competency-based units. Evidence from these reports would be valuable to understanding how this waiver has been used to date. If it has not done so, I recommend the board follow up with OSSI, DCPS, and DCPCS, or PSCB to obtain these reports and ensure they are accessible to schools and the public online. Recommendation 2, rethinking the district's competency-based waiver. OSSI's April 2nd reply to the board's January 8th questions indicates DC's existing competency-based waiver application would be OSSI's preferred way for schools to award competency-based graduation credit. However, this waiver is almost a decade old and updates should be considered. For example, my experience when working with states suggests that the application's focus on individual courses may push schools into more traditional course-based approaches and discourage more whole-based school competency-based approaches. I would recommend that the board consider passing a resolution asking OSSI to review and update this application. The board could also go further still and recommend that the City Council create a waiver allowing schools and districts to seek flexibility from the state statute and regulation to allow for more flexibility to pursue competency-based education. Recommendation 3, encouraging competency development. OSSI's April 2nd reply again to the board's January 8th questions noted that it had developed its portrait of a graduate characteristics by engaging with district stakeholders. However, in my experience, a portrait alone is typically not enough. Rich competency-based structures require in-depth grade-spanning competencies that help students and educators understand what it looks like to implement the qualities of the district's profile in the classroom. I recommend that the state board ask OSSI whether it intends to build out these grade-spanning competencies as a part of its guidance, and if not, encourage them to do so. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Lataya?
Yes, my name is Lataya Loring. I am a mother, a proud mother of a talented, autistic future engineer and future leader of this world. To the esteemed members of the State Board of Education, I come before you today driven by a profound commitment to advocate for equitable education and support of all students within our Washington, D.C. public school system, whether that be public or charter. I am here to discuss out-of-time school programming, the impact of chronic absenteeism, and the importance of supporting students with disabilities. Our schools are the bedrock of our community's future, yet they are bombarded by a myriad of challenges. The chronic short staffing and retention issues among those specialists who provide special education services in the school could span from dedicated aides, more LEAs, more coordinators, writing and reading and math interventionists inside the classroom, and high-impact tutors. Coordinators are extremely overwhelmed and overworked from performing many other multiple duties that distract and burn them out from tackling, handling, and completing the required tasks and duties assignments of their own position. These professionals are the heart of our special education system, yet they are stretched unbearably thin, limiting their ability to provide the individualized attention and care and planning each student deserves, whose District of Columbia education is regulated by a 504 IEP plan. Our current transportation woes exacerbate these special educational disparities. The OSSI transportation program is in a state of turmoil. With reliability issues causing students to arrive late to school, miss the entire instructional day of school, get home late, eroding their time for study, relaxation, and family bonding. For special education students, this situation is particularly dire. The lack of compatible scheduling prevents many from participating in out-of-school time programs, effectively excluding them from critical enrichment opportunities due to their reliance on school transportation to transport them home from school. This scenario is unjust, it disproportionately impacts students with individualized education needs, undermining their right to equitable education, out-of-school time opportunities. It is crucial that these systems be overhauled to ensure every child, regardless of their ability, can partake fully and fairly in the education system. I know that each of you are dedicated to making change. I appreciate your comment, Ms. Colson, and I'm excited about your energy, Mr. Goethe. We got work to do. We need help. That's my testimony.
Thank you. Kiana Lamont, virtual.
Good evening, members of the State Board of Education. My name is Quiana Lamont. I'm a proud Ward 7 resident and a paid parent leader. All my children attend DC public schools. I'm here today to speak about the critical importance of school-based mental health and access to technology. Earlier tonight, we heard from a panel of experts about school safety and bullying. I'm here today to advocate for continued access to school-based mental health resources as students navigate bullying experience. A lot of times we focus on what to do after students have been bullied and how we can support them. I'm here today to talk about the work that has to be done to support students who are bullied. Students are hurting others because they are hurting. I believe we need school-based mental health so that students who are bullying others can receive services that help them process and improve their behavior. Not only does addressing the root cause of bullying lead to more positive school community, but it also impacts academic achievement. When students can focus on school, they learn more and can improve their academic outcome. Students don't go to school to fight, they go to school to learn. Making sure that our students have access to school-based mental health resources is the key to supporting our students. We have to fix the things that take away from our students' ability to learn so that our students can focus on school. I would like to also talk about the importance of technology. I believe we should allow students to use their cell phones while in school. We live in a world that's changing, where technology is a big part of our student lives. We have to make sure that our students understand how to use technology responsibly. Cell phones can play a critical role in ensuring our student safety. Cell phones let our parents know that their students have made it to school safely and made it back home safely. When fights are recorded, the videos can be used to identify who was involved, and then school leaders can contact those involved with the proper resources. Cell phones and technology are a part of our everyday lives. We have to embrace their roles and teach our children how to use them responsibly. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Ms. CBO Saul?
Good evening, members of the State Board of Education. My name is Saban Saul. I'm a Ward 6 parent of a middle schooler at Capitol Hill Montessori, a member of PAVE, Ward 6 Parent Leaders in Education Board, and a bilingual educator in K-12 public charter schools. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I'm excited to share my voice about Bill B26-204, Safe Passage Training and School Engagement Amendment Act of 2025, and the importance of safe passage. The Safe Passage program plays an essential role in keeping our students safe each and every day. I have seen the positive impact that Safe Passage ambassadors have had on schools near the LEA I work at. I have felt the absence of Safe Passage ambassadors at my LEA. It is crucial that our students come to school ready to learn each day. If they are processing the trauma or chaos of the morning commute, this cuts down on the time they are able to spend focused on instruction and cultivating their skills. This is why we must continue to advocate for the Safe Passage program. We are in unprecedented times, navigating an extremely tough budget year. In our current budget climate, it is imperative that we continue to center student safety in our push for educational excellence across the district. I believe the Councilmember Pinto's Safe Passage Ambassador Training and School Engagement Amendment Act of 2025 is an important step toward ensuring that every child can travel to and from school safely. I value the emphasis on training and the potential for deeper collaboration between Safe Passage ambassadors and school leaders. Many schools face challenges with conflict resolution and de-escalation, and with the right training, SPAs can be powerful partners in supporting students, connecting with families, and helping schools build stronger, safer communities. This work supports the whole child and keeps the door open for success. I believe the bill could be even stronger if it ensures that school leaders are actively involved, not just informed. While the bill would require biannual meetings between Safe Passage personnel and school leaders, specifying that school leaders should co-create the agenda would ensure school leaders are actively involved. We need consistent communication and actions and solutions-oriented collaboration where school voices are heard and data is shared. School leaders are on the ground and have been intentional in building relationships anchored in trust and can offer direct insight into the daily realities our students face. Bringing school leaders and safe passage personnel together can serve as a powerful tool to make our kids safer. Educator involvement is essential for identifying real-time needs and driving effective solutions. Safe Passage ambassadors play a critical role because every student deserves a safe journey to a place they go on purpose, to learn, grow, and thrive. This is why I urge the State Board of Education. Thank you.
Saul. Katie Riley.
Good evening, members of the State Board of Education. My name is Katie Riley, and I'm a resident of Ward 6. I'm also the parent of a current kindergartner and a rising pre-K3 student at Shirley Chisholm Elementary School. I'm going to echo what you heard from Robin on the last panel for the expansion of Chisholm into a pre-K through 8th grade bilingual and creative arts education campus, serving families in Ward 6 and the east side of DC. I'm sure you hear about many schools. I'm sure you hear this about many schools, but Chisholm is unique. It's an in-demand, thriving, dual language and creative arts-focused school with a diverse student body and families who deeply value the sense of community that the school has created. The leadership and teachers at Chisholm are exceptional, and their emphasis on striving for the best in each student and embracing the diversity of the student body is creating future leaders, or champions for change, as we like to call them at Chisholm. My kindergartner, who didn't speak Spanish prior to enrollment at Chisholm, has blossomed in her language skills. She's even teaching her little brother to prepare him for pre-K3 next year. But in a few short years, our family will be faced with a tough decision, given there's no equitable and reasonably located dual language middle school available to us, as identified by the 2023 DME study. We don't want to lose the investment our children have made in their bilingual skills, but we would be unable, as a 2 full-time working parent household, to commute across the city to McFarland Middle School in Northwest to continue a dual language program. Additionally, the loss of the sense of community would be profound. We see our fellow Chisholm families at neighborhood playgrounds and restaurants. We sign up for nearby sports and arts activities, and we meet up with friends on our walks to and from school. Very much so the best way to start and end the day. We are dreading the decision in a few short years on whether to give up our bilingual skills or our community. That's not a choice that we want to make. I'm here today to urge a different, more equitable path forward that's being spearheaded by our amazing PTO at Chisholm, which is to establish a pre-K to 8th grade education campus, ensuring equitable access for students in Ward 6, as well as Ward 7 and 8, to continue their dual language program. With the upcoming modernization effort at Chisholm, there's a unique and cost-effective opportunity for DCPS to expand its middle school bilingual program capacity on the east side of DC while leveraging an already funded modernization project. Converting Chisholm into an education campus that includes a middle school would help families like mine stay within DCPS, help our children continue their bilingual education, which is linked to improved academic outcomes, and support and build upon the strong community that Chisholm and dual language schools like ours on the east side of DC have created. I urge the State Board of Education to recommend the prioritization of the expansion of Chisholm into a dual language education campus, inclusive of a middle school, as part of its 2026 modernization efforts. Thank you for the consideration of this critical issue.
Thank you all for your testimony. We will now have one round of member questions. Representative Barnes.
Thank each and every one of you for your amazing testimonies. First, I'm going to just say, Ms. Lamons, I like you a lot. Yeah, although, the cell phone bill, is already passed, but I still like you, okay? But, yeah, that's that. And then I want to get to Ms. Saul real quick about the safe passage. We hear a lot about safe passage and we hear a lot of what we can do, but my question is directly with the student and safe passage relationship, because passing each and every day, going to and from school, it's very rare that you would just walk past a safe passage person and they at all would speak to you. How can we fix that? Because it's easy just to have them out there and just have them, looking and walking around like security guards. How can we build that relationship between the two instead of them just being idle?
That's a great question. I think I just recently learned that they are not supposed to just stay in one position. So I know that they're supposed to go and interact and build a relationship. But I think it's more about the school leaders being able to invite them into the community because we're all in it together. And I think with the training and, you know, making sure that we still keep it as an important factor to have them around to be able to support the students and the school leaders and the families. I think that would be just making sure that we're inclusive and making them a part of our community.
Thank you so much. And I'll be definitely following up with you more because Safe Passage is very much high radar for me. So yes. And then Ms. Loring, I'm going to put out Ryan real quick. He texted me and said, DC is broke, okay? He texted me and said, we don't have that. Yeah, every time we come back, we hear about, you know, no funding for buses, no funding for a lot of things, and it's definitely very unfortunate. But my question to you is with out of school time, how do you feel as if we can ensure that students are being more equipped with necessary skills that they need with these programs?
Restate your question for me, please.
How do you feel as if we can have students equipped with the necessary skills they need with these programs? Because out of school time, I hear it's very much a range of different activities that I hear with out of school time, from just fun to academics to, so I really want to get a clear sense of what are we exactly looking for these to include?
Well, considering I served as a proud mentor of an outstanding out of school time program called Yay Me, one of the disparities I found amidst our young people is that they are hurting. We need trained, licensed mental health professionals on site at these out-of-school time programs, just to combat a lot of the social and emotional challenges that they're facing. It's a domino effect. So a safe place, licensed mental health professionals, and of course, like what I testified about, a lot of the special educational students who use RC transportation miss out on these chances because they're traveling home. I'm done.
Thank you. Representative Ting.
Yes, I would also like to thank you all for coming here today. I also support Safe Passage. It's a shame we don't have. It's a shame that it hasn't been fully funded and fully accessible. And I also hope that your child definitely becomes a future engineer. As a mechanical engineering student myself, it is super awesome. I would like to spend most of my time talking about the youth and government thing. And I'm no longer the mayor, actually. The new one was elected. But I've done 3 years of youth and government, and it has, and we basically trick a lot of kids into doing politics and like writing policy. I don't know like how they buy it, but they spend months on these bills and they work really hard. And so, specifically on the ones that we brought up and highlighted, of course we have like dozens and dozens, but we brought up like 11 of the best ones that passed. And then specifically on the 2 ones, the first one was talking about first aid stuff for school safety. So apparently in Jacksonville at least, it was brought up that a lot of teachers don't have access to 5 hours of personal development time to learn like first aid and CPR. And obviously like you want, I think it's only like PE teachers or something. Obviously you don't want to have to like run down to get the PE teacher if you're having like a heart attack, or honestly, first aid is just good to know in general, so I fully support that. And the second bill that, another kid did, I think really connects to actually Alistair's stuff about literacy, like literacy-free after-school activities, keeping kids off the streets, having them do something productive, keeping literacy rates up. Fully support that. Let's see. And then, I do recommend, we'll be sending the bills out again, glancing around. And so I do recommend glancing through them because one, like obviously you can always give you ideas. You can also support with things that you believe, new ideas. Also, we could always connect you with the bill authors in case you want to have like a student like running errands, doing research, helping you with all that stuff. Because our YAC kids are really talented and will definitely work really hard. And honestly, like, I mean, we have a bunch of YAC kids applying to be State Board of Education student reps. Taya and now me have set the example of like, definitely it's a lot visible at SAC, so you'll be hearing a lot of youth in government for many years to come. My apologies. With that, I yield my time.
Representative Colson.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for your testimony. I want to talk, I don't want to talk about it, but I do want to say that my school participated in the policy writing, and their policy was the best. I think that it needs to be revoted upon. But moving on, I want to talk specifically about school safety and safe passage and mental health, all of those things, since that was the topic of tonight's discussion. And I want to say that everyone plays a part. We all play a part. This board plays a part. School plays a part. And of course, parents play a part. You all play a powerful part. And so my question is, for PAVE, you all come all the time so strongly. My question is, how can you all support, you all as a whole or as parents, however you all want to answer it, support schools? Because here's my problem. Many things happen that the school can probably do away with or remedy quite quickly if parents are involved. And oftentimes we have parents who will come to the table and we have other parents who will not. And we know that there is no policy that says a parent has to show up. Even in the situation with Ms. Brown, I don't know all of the logistics, we don't know all that happened, but definitely with two parents involved, some of the things that transpired should not have transpired. So as we move forward and the board continues to do their work and schools continue to do their work individually, how can you all, as a parent or as a collective, support schools in getting parents to come to the tables to have these discussions so that we can make the school culture and everything much better? That's my question to you all as it relates to school safety.
Well, first and foremost, PAVE found me. It was a blessing. I was a parent who was showing up every day with a lot of concerns. I was not welcomed. I was made out to be a problem, more so as a partner who can come on board to help provide a solution. So that's where it starts, Ms. Colson. You have a large population of parents who want to be involved, but they don't quite know how, and then they're not being received well by the school. You have a parent action team that I'm on, but it's so staged and it's so strategized that it does not leave space for the authentic conversations that need to transpire to discuss what's going on and how can we bring them through the door and become involved. So the parents think it's like fluff, it's like it's not serious. We can have conversations all day, but when are we going to be about action and let us, some of them, we're on different education levels, so some don't know how to articulate or behave, and I talk to parents, try not to get upset. It's hard. This is your child. But you want to be able to know how to communicate so that you are not made out to be the angry parent pushed out, because that's not going to solve anything either. That's my experience.
Thank you. Representative Goulet.
I want to thank everybody for testifying today. I'm looking forward to working with PAVE, and I will not be upset at all if you're the angry parent, because sometimes that's needed, I think. So, because we really, there's a lot to be angry about sometimes. And I hate to divert from your testimony because it was all very interesting, but there's something I'm very angry about right now. One of our public witnesses didn't show up tonight because they're being harassed by our chancellor and our DC public schools. And I'm fed up with it. So Chancellor Farabee, this message is directly to you on this. We have students right now who are right on the age cutoff, are in pre-K4 programs, and we have our DCPS threatening them with social services getting involved in these kids' lives because they're trying to force the kids with 2 months left in the school year to go enroll in DCPS in kindergarten when the kid's enrolled in a pre-K4 program, and these are September birthdays. That's absurd. I got another call from a parent who moved in from Florida that has a September 1st birthday cutoff. So their student has been in the right track altogether. DCPS is saying that student, even though they're not ready, must skip kindergarten and go to first grade, even though they're in pre-K4 from Florida. I have lost all confidence in you, Chancellor Farabee, and your staff. People need to be fired for this. You're ruining parents' lives. You're not following the DC code, and this is ridiculous. It's been going on for months. And I'm fed up with it. I don't know what you're doing over there that has ever led anybody to think this makes any sense whatsoever, to do this to parents, to not look out for the best interest of children. And we're hearing it over and over and over again from parents that this is going on. And I don't know when this changed. I don't know if this is some aggressive campaign against redshirting, but no one I've spoken to thinks this makes any sense. And I'm going to reach out tonight. And I'm willing to look to see what our process is to accelerate my C committee meeting. I'm going to write emergency legislation to take the power away from DCPS and make sure that that's ready for the working session and that we transmit it to DC Council at this next public meeting. This is ridiculous, and I do not know what's going on at DCPS that would make anyone think this is a good idea. But I'm very upset that our witnesses are being bullied away from here and feeling they need to get legal counsel because they're being threatened by our DCPS and our chancellor. Something needs to change on this right now, and it will.
Representative Henderson.
Thank you all for your testimony. I don't have any questions. I will say, Mr. Alfuth, thank you for raising those specific recommendations about the policies around the waivers. I need to learn more about how they're being used currently. They're only being used in a small handful of schools, and so I need to verify this, but my sense is that there's much more potential for how they can be used than how they currently are. Thank you all.
Representative Thompson.
Good evening, and I do want to thank everyone for their testimonies. I don't think I have questions. I have comments, though. So on the safe passage front, I do think it's actually really important that we address the training and then the collaboration and communication issue. This is something I have been consistent about since I've been on the board. I even worked to make sure we passed a resolution supporting that. We've shared it with the council several times. And so I'm glad that there is action being taken, but it always comes down to a quality of implementation conversation. Because I've also gone with our student advocates office to some of my high schools who do have safe passage. And I heard, I can't remember which one of you said, I think it was you, saying you didn't know they were supposed to do more than stand in one spot. I've heard that from our young people directly too. They were like, I don't see the difference in some cases between the safe passage worker and anybody who's just like sitting on their stoop, right, or outside of the corner store. And that is not how safe passage is supposed to be implemented. And so often we have had a conversation about expanding safe passage. More schools should be in safe passage, more hours for safe passage, and those are the right conversations. But we also want to make sure that as we make these investments, as these programs are showing up in our communities, that they're actually serving our communities in the way they're meant to be served. That is also a big part of the equation as well. And so I do encourage you all as parents, as this legislation, as there's conversation around this legislation, and maybe legislation may or may not be the right tool, but as there's conversation around it, being very clear about what you want that training to look like. How you think people should be engaging your students, what conversations should be had with communities, what conversations should be had with school communities, because when I have seen safe passage be most successful is when everybody understands, everybody's on the same page, everyone's bought in. And that is not currently happening across the board, but I do believe it can happen across the board. And so I appreciate you all's testimonies around that today. I appreciate everyone's testimonies this evening. But I do want to be very clear about what I see is both the challenge and the opportunity here, especially as, you know, a lot of times we're talking about resources. And in this budget cycle, we will be talking about more limited resources. And so we want those things to be efficient and actually make the right and positive impact in our school communities. So thank you all for your testimonies. I will yield the rest of my time.
Representative Best.
Thank you all for coming out and speaking. Katie, you know, I'm with you. Like, why put so many resources into creating these bilingual programs if you're going to just stop it once they get to, you know, a certain grade? I look forward to continue to work with you. Ms. Quiana, excuse me, I said it wrong. I agree with you 1,000%. You're preaching to the choir, but in this case, it's probably like a quartet because I'm like in the minority. But I think we could definitely have, strong mental health programming, but also have that tech as well. The tech isn't going anywhere. We have to make sure that we are, working with our kids so that they will learn how to use that tech responsibly. And when they grow up, they'll understand how to use it, not just for social media, but for a means to drive their lives and their careers forward. Miss Lataya, I was a privileged kid. I was privileged. I went to a school where we had mandatory sports and extracurriculars, but my brother, he didn't. He was in the school in Ward 8. He didn't have all that. When he got home, my dad wasn't there. He was still at work. He got caught up in the streets. My younger brother is doing a life sentence right now, and so. We have to think about all of that. And so I've always been a strong advocate for after-school programming and making sure that it's really solid, but also making sure that we work with our parents. My whole career has been with parent engagement, and I had an opportunity to work with Dr. Patterson over at KIP with after-school programming and athletics and understanding how important those things can be, and it can really be the difference between life and death, and so, it's tough because right now we're in a space where the funding is bad, and then, I was just talking to Ebony Rose Thompson, Representative Ebony Rose Thompson, and she was just showing about the bonds, and how that's going to negatively impact our budget, and we're gonna have to be innovative, but we got to do something, and I can honestly say that I don't have that answer right now. But as far as like the parents come on and not really knowing what to say, I actually think I do have a solution to that. But I want to talk to you afterwards because I think there's some things that you have mentioned that I hadn't thought of in my solution. So I'll reach out to you when we're done. Thanks.
Thank you, Representative Chang.
Thank you all. No questions at this time.
Vice President Williams.
Yep. Thank you all for your testimony. Ms. Paul, I'll start with you. I just have comments mostly. I don't think I have any questions either. I appreciate what you do. I've seen the Youth in Government program at my school. It's my first year at School Without Walls, and it's exciting. They take it seriously. There's debate. They were a part of the event that you talked about. So I appreciate your work and appreciate you showing up here to highlight the success of getting students involved. There's a citywide event this upcoming weekend at partnering with the Office of Student Advocate. So I'm excited to be able to listen to students from around the city. Mr. Alfuth, I share Representative Henderson's interest in understanding more about the waivers for different areas of the competencies. So I want to follow up with you afterwards, and thank you for your continued advocacy on this issue. And Ms. Loring, I just appreciate your energy and the righteousness of like the issues that you are bringing to attention. I think it shouldn't be so complicated for schools to create open spaces to listen to parents and respond to needs. Right, like these are centers of community. Some schools do it better than others, but parents should not be feeling that way, And I think yes, we have a lot of issues with just educators, teachers, everyone with bandwidth and capacity. But at the end of the day, like we're in a business of service, And I think that makes it's important that people realize that and be attentive to how people are having a good experience and feeling a sense of community with their schools, because otherwise we're just perpetuating cycles that we're not trying to. So thank you for your testimony, and I yield the rest of my time. Thank you both.
President Patterson.
Thank you, Director. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. What I want to say is I appreciate the energy, because in 2007 they took a lot of things away from the State Board of Education. The thing that they left was that this is the bully pulpit, so to speak for parents, to elevate their voices. And that's what we try to be. I want to make sure that you guys understand that we need your energy to elevate those things. I'm not asking you to always be politically correct, to say it in the right verbiage, or anything. I want you to express it how you feel, how you experience it, how your baby is experiencing it. Ms. Riley, I feel you. I know your school well, and I agree with you 100%. I do not understand how we make decisions about programming that leaves families in this crazy space of when their child moves to the next band of education. It makes no sense. Where you have a school here that teaches a language, and then where do they go for middle school and other places? And you're disbanding whole families and everything. There's no continuum for them. So I agree with you 100%. Ms. Loring, again, I need you to keep, okay? Show up in those spaces and also tell us what we need to go up with, okay? So I appreciate that. And last, but of course not least, Ms. Saul, thank you for pointing out point by point everything that I believe about safe passage. I had the opportunity to work with PAVE on a lot of the things as they got ready for testimony today, showing up with Ms. Savage. It was very humbling that they took in all this information. So I saw the way that they put that together. You are absolutely right about the relationship between the safe passage workers and the actual school leaders. There are very few that actually make that connection. I know we talk about what happens in the exterior. I only got a few seconds. But what happens between that relationship between that school leader and those safe passage people, allowing them to come into the school, build those type of relationships to make sure there's restorative justice practices that are there that they can mediate, are all important. They are so important, and Representative Best knows that they save lives. Because they can provide information, if done correctly, that can save the child. Because I've been on the other side when that didn't happen and we lost the child. I've literally been in that situation. So I want to thank you for your testimony, for pointing those critical pieces out, and that those things need to happen in order for safe passage to work. There has to be a relationship between the school leader and the safe passage worker. They have to be able to come into the schools and build those relationships with those students and with the leaders so that the right information can be given at any given time. That is my time. Thank you all.
Again, thank you all for joining us. We will ask that if you all on this panel here could remember to send a written copy of your testimony so that we can add it to the official record to SBOE@dc.gov. Thank you again for your testimony. This concludes our public witness list. President Patterson.
Again, want to thank all the public witnesses for their comments tonight. We sincerely appreciate it. We will now move on to our administrative items. First, we will move to vote on state resolution. I will look for a motion and a second following by Director Butler reading the resolution into the record. Sometimes we have people who do not want it read in, and that kind of moves us along a little bit faster. Once the resolution is read into the record, if it is read into the record, we will open it up for member discussion before roll call votes are conducted. We will now move to vote on State Resolution SR 25-7, initiating the creation of a graduation requirements task force. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It has been moved by Vice President Williams. Is there a second?
Second.
There is a second that was moved by Representative Thompson.
President Patterson, may I at this time move to waive the reading of the resolution? So moved.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded properly. First by Eric Boulay, Representative Boulay, and then by Vice President Williams. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All right, thank you. Motion has been properly moved and seconded. Okay, is there a student advisory committee statement?
I believe there is, but I think, okay. Well, I'm the only student right now, so let me pull it up.
I can read it. It's in the binder.
All right, sure.
The Student Advisory Committee lends its unanimous support to SR 25-7. The SAC understands the importance and statutory responsibility of the DC State Board of Education in ensuring that feedback is heard through a task force that includes voices of parents and experts in special education. The SAC also recommends that the task force explore the potential consequences of changing of changes in graduation requirements to the DC education landscape. The final vote was 8 in favor and 0 opposed and 0 abstentions.
Thank you. Is there discussion on the resolution? Representative Singh?
One small thing that was brought up in the public meeting was they wanted some experts on, I think, competency-based learning or something. So then for the task force, we might just want to internally note down to include somebody who knows about competency-based learning. That's all.
Representative Henderson?
Yeah, I just wanted to say to the board that the leadership, along with Representative Thompson and myself, met with OSSI to discuss this, and I feel that we're on the same page and everyone's comfortable with how it will move forward. So I hope we can all support this tonight.
Was there any other discussions or comments? I would just like to say I appreciate a group that's simple to look at this and collaborate as they work continuously with OSSI to make sure that we came to some mutual understandings of what was being expected. So I really appreciate just the due diligence and intentional work that we thank you. Okay, since I see no other discussions, the motion to adopt SR 25-7, Director Butler, will you call the roll?
Representative Barnes. Representative Ting.
Yes.
Representative Best.
Yep.
Representative Chang.
Yes.
Representative Colson.
Yes.
Representative Goulet.
Yes.
Representative Henderson.
Aye.
Representative Thompson.
Yes.
Vice President Williams.
Aye.
President Patterson.
Aye.
State Board of Education resolution initiating the creation of a graduation requirements task force, SR 25-7, has passed.
Thank you, Director. Next, we will move to vote to transmit a piece of legislation to the D.C. Council. The D.C. State Board of Education Expanded Authority Amendment Act of 2025. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It has been moved by Representative Thompson. Second.
Second.
It has been properly seconded by Representative Henderson. Is there discussion?
Representative Patterson?
Representative Goulet?
Yes. I'm going to move in a moment a motion to table this, and I want to speak as to why I'm going to move that motion. This legislation came out of a working group that I think put forth a very thoughtful resolution. I'd like to commend Representatives Ebony Rose Thompson and Representative Henderson for working on this in a very thoughtful way. I think we came up with a good resolution, and I think this legislation really makes sense in a lot of ways. I think there's a bill at DC Council that was put forth. Our effort was to put something on the table that I think better reflects the priorities of the State Board, and I think this legislation is very thoughtful in doing that. However, what I'm concerned about has been my concern from the beginning on this, and that's that the timing on this is wrong. That I don't think right now, with the volatility we see at Congress, that the timing makes sense to be sending or considering any authority changes at this point. I just think it opens up unnecessary scrutiny, and we have other priorities, I think, that are more urgent than trying to deal with this. So, out of an abundance of caution, I'm just generally concerned about sending this not for substance, but for policy. What I would like to do, Representative Patterson, if it's okay with you, is be recognized for a second round. And I will come back and make the motion to table at that time. And the reason being is that a motion to table is not debatable under Robert's rules, and I don't want to disrespect my colleagues who may want to speak on this. So I will come back if it's okay with you and be recognized on a second round and move the motion at that time.
Thank you. I truly appreciate your parliamentary knowledge on this to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to speak on it. Is there discussion in this particular round on the transmittal legislation?
So just so I'm clear, we're going to continue discussion on the vote about the transmittal. And then we will have a round about the motion to table?
That is correct. In the event that there was like a debate.
That is semi-correct. Once the motion is made to lay on the table, there's no debate after that. There has to be an immediate vote.
Right.
So there
Okay.
can't be a second round of discussion
Okay.
on the motion to lay on the table. There must be a vote.
Because, I guess, so I'm also confused because technically we are in one motion.
Right. And from my
Should the
understanding.
motion to table have to go before,
Point of
or
order.
does it matter?
Point of order.
Doesn't matter, okay.
If I may.
It doesn't matter when the motion comes to
Right.
lay it on the table, because the point of the motion lay it on the table is to sort of expedite and debate at that time.
Right.
Mhm.
So it can come in the middle, or it can come before, but
Because
the
he didn't-
purpose is to end
But
it.
he's not moving his motion to table
Just
now.
yet, exactly.
He's just notifying us.
He's notifying us that
coming.
there is a motion to table is coming, but he wanted to allow people to speak on it first. To speak on the actual
Yes, but
transmittal.
there will not be another round of discussion.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
I just wanted to be clear on what
Yeah.
we are doing.
Once that
because
motion
it's
is moved, there will be no more discussion.
not- Okay.
And I should also say, even though he said a motion to lay on the table, it was never seconded, so it actually hasn't even
Yeah.
occurred.
Correct.
Exactly.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page, and I'm on the same page as everybody else. I plan to vote to transmit this. I thought we were going to vote on this a month ago. I think it's actually really important. I think a few things are actually really important. I do very much agree with Representative Goulet that there was very thoughtful work done here. And I also understand, and it's not a surprise to me, Representative Goulet's perspective, because he's been pretty upfront, and I think he and I both share that as an approach, being pretty upfront with what our concerns are and what we see as challenges, and we do our best to address them in the working. That being said, the place where he and I differ is I am of the mindset that we should go ahead and transmit. It is up to the council if or when they take this up. I don't think it needs to be the first thing they take up, but I do think I cannot imagine better work on this, and I think it's done. And we put a pin in it. And so I would not say this is something that we need to do a press release about and need to have a lot of fanfare around. I think this is a place where we quietly do our work, put our heads down, and send it off. And that's not a surprise to Representative Goulet either, because neither one of us like surprises, so we tend not to surprise each other. And so, no, it's true. And so that is my perspective, and I also do appreciate and respect Representative Goulet's perspective, and have very much enjoyed working with both him and Representative Henderson to do this work, because I think it is a solid product. Thank you.
Is there more discussion or comment?
Yeah, I can speak to that. I appreciate the thoughtful, well-reasoned comments from both Representative Goulet, and I understand and share the concern, and I also appreciate and agree with you, Representative Thompson, about the approach that we would be taking in voting yes, and the place that the work is at, and not just the work of the committee that worked to get there, not just the recent bill by Representative Parker, but the previous iteration of this board's work to be able to advance this, and then merely doing our part to create a thoughtful, development on the work of previous boards. So I just wanted to kind of jump in on that, but I appreciate the perspectives of both representatives.
All right, any other discussion? Motion has been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It has been properly seconded by Representative Folsom from Ward 4. We will now go for a vote to table.
Representative Barnes.
Yes.
Representative Ting.
No.
Representative Best.
Yes.
Representative Chang.
Aye.
Representative Colson.
Yes.
Representative Goulet.
Aye.
Representative Henderson.
No.
Representative Thompson.
No.
Representative, Vice President Williams.
No.
President Patterson.
Yes.
The motion to lay legislation on the table has passed by 5-3.
I apologize for turning on my mic. Thank you for everyone for that. I believe since that has been tabled, that we now move on to new business. Is that correct? I believe so. Okay. Members, are there any announcements or comments you would like to make before we adjourn?
Yeah, I would just like to remind members on Saturday, the Office of Student Advocate is hosting the Student Youth Voice Forum, Trinity University from 10 to 3. You know, if you could show up for any bit of that, I'm sure it would be welcomed. And there is a schedule out by Bigfoot Challenge in which Dan Davis is going to be presenting the second half of that. But there's ways to engage with students on a variety of issues throughout the day.
Thank you. Any other announcements before we adjourn? With no further business before the State Board of Education, I would now entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved by Representative Ting. Can I get a second?
Second.
Who was the second? I didn't-
Aye.
Thank you, Representative Barnes. Motion has been properly moved and seconded. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? We are now adjourned.